Hey, yo, what's good, what's good, what's good? Welcome to Reflections of a DJ, the R.O.A.D podcast presented by DJ City and Beat Source. I'm one of your hosts, DJ Crooked. We got Jamie the Great here. Big shout out to our boy, DJ Never Forever. There's a lot of motherfuckers in this room. And one, I got to give a shout out to Scram Jones. Scram Jones is next door.
Grammy.
Crashing the party.
Andrew Room Studios. We've taken over Hip Hop Gambo's studio over here in New York, who's graciously allowed us to record over here. And then we have a legendary key figure in hip hop, nightlife in New York. Like one of the faces of Beat Street Records. He's
I know who the hell he was talking about.
Yeah, I know. one of the most legendary and greatest nightclub DJs in New York. We have Goldfinger here. Thank you, Goldfinger.
Yeah.
What up?
Goldie.
And we have two figures here, and this is one of these episodes that is like my top 3 bucket lists of all. Like when I started this podcast, I'm like, I need these motherfuckers on here because they're so influential in my life. And then I didn't really know they were influential in my life, like growing up in New York, growing up being a fan of underground hip hop, to becoming a DJ, to navigating myself in nightlife, to the craft of DJing, to the music, to everything. They've been so influential to me and all my homies growing up, and they're such a big part of hip hop. They're instrumental revolutionizing underground hip hop, independent hip hop, bringing it to the forefront. Their contributions for independent distribution, nightlife, the craft of DJing, production, you name it. They've done so much, and I'd like to introduce. And they've been friends forever. Like since the 90s. Yeah. I'm talking 35, 30 plus years of friendship and working together, and they're still working together. They have a radio show. I think it's over 10 years. Mm-hmm. Rappers Out of Control, Shade 45, Sirius XM. And, they've been DJing together since the days of Third Base, MC Search, and they were big influential figures and the music men behind a lot of college radio shows that really shaped hip-hop and brought a lot of artists to the forefront that you may not have even known of. But we got DJ Eclipse and DJ Riz in the building.
Yeah. What up? Good to see everybody.
Yeah, what's good? Thank you guys for coming through.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely.
I've been trying to get Riz on for so long, and Eclipse. You've been on my bucket list with Fat Beats and everything you've done and pushing all these underground records to the forefront. Like, you guys have such a history together, and you guys, I was kind of doing research, and I was looking at the timeline, and along the way, you guys kind of like every couple years you would like meet up, work together, do your own thing, kind of meet up and work together again.
It's like a marriage,
Yeah, a little bit
of each other, and
you guys are like, you guys are like
I'm
a
like
couple.
Mos Def, he's like Drake. That's great. That's the best way to put it. You know what I mean?
I want to talk about when you guys first met. I'm thinking you guys first met around like when you guys were DJing for MC Search.
Correct.
Yeah,
and that's what happened,
Yep,
right?
absolutely.
So how did it happen? Like, how did y'all become DJs for MC Search?
Well, you should start off because your story with him starts before mine. So I don't even know if I know your story of hooking up with him, because when I met him, you were already in pocket. So you started off.
I think it was when I was doing the BAU show, and that was 90.3 WBAU with my man Wildman Steve.
Wildman Steve.
Yeah, on Monday nights, legendary show before we were even there,
And that's your second like radio show.
Yeah, second. Yeah. I'm trying to remember because there was so many.
Because the first radio show you did was in Hofstra University.
Yeah. I went to college there.
Yeah.
So,
Long Island.
Yeah,
right?
shout out to Jeff Force. Rest in peace, Jeff Force. Another legendary radio guy. You had the home of Public Enemy and Leaders of the New School and Original Concept, groups like that would come to that show on the weekends. And it's crazy. I mean, I remember the first time I did it, Flavor Flav walked in. And it was a Saturday night, my first night ever DJing on the radio. I think it was 1990. And Flav came in, and I'm like,
Peak.
Wow.
Peak Flavor Flav.
Yeah, right? Crazy.
Yeah, because that's like what, like 80, 89? What,
90.
90.
90.
Wow.
And then, I started doing shows there. And then I started double dipping because, like, Saturdays I was starting to get some club gigs. And I couldn't do it because it was on Saturday night. And I wound up doing the WBAU show, which was a Monday. So it was a little easier. I just missed Monday Night Football, which I wasn't happy about. But,
It's okay. You didn't see the Raiders lose too much.
So I think it was a time when Search was one of the guests that came up on the show, or he was he at? No, he wasn't at Wild Pitch. That was after.
That was
right?
way after.
Yeah. I think Search came up one night and asked me. He's like, I need a DJ crew. He says, I already got my man Eclipse in Carolina. He's like,
No. See, that's wrong.
Why is it wrong?
Because that's why I'm telling you have to set it off, because you came first. When I met him, he mentioned you to me, and I had no idea who the hell you were.
When he came to me, he mentioned you to me.
Wait. Can I assume that he was talking because you were cool with Richie Rich,
Right.
which was Third Base's DJ?
Yes.
And I think correct me if I'm wrong, but it says from like around 86 to 89, there was a crew of DJs just like kind of practicing DJ battle routines. And the crew of DJs was you, Clark Kent, Richie Rich, DJ Dice from Das Effects, Majesty from The King and I.
Yeah.
The King and I, by the way, I haven't heard that group name in 20 years.
Yeah, shout out to
Madge.
Madge and Izzy.
Good dude.
Madge. And I think you were making mixtapes in Canarsie and Brooklyn, where you're from at the time. But
Yeah.
is that where maybe the seed was planted for
Well, Clark Kent had the Superman crew,
right?
and I wasn't really a member. I was
Yeah.
kind of like towards the end, so I was always practicing with Rich. Dice would practice. I know Scratch was down with Superman. Plastic Man. There was a bunch of incredible DJs. I'm trying to remember what day that was when.
Maybe at the seminar.
Was it it might have been at the music seminar. There was a battle. Rich was in the battle. I think that was like 89 maybe. When he did the tricks with on the mixer, he put his butt on the fader and like nobody wanted to touch it. Shout out to Rich, man, incredible DJ.
Absolutely.
But I think it was when Search came up to the BAU show was when he asked me about possibly DJing for him, and immediately I was like, I got to ask Rich because that's my man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Third Base. They broke up, and I would never do anything like that to any of my friends. So I asked Rich, and Rich actually gave me his blessing. So I told Search I'm down to do it. So now where do you come
All
in?
right. So now I was living down in South Carolina at the time, and I was working at a store called Sounds Familiar, record store. And Search had come through on a promo run. He was promoting the first single, the Here It Comes single from his solo album. When he came in, I knew he was coming, and so I started making small talk with him. And a friend of mine, Todd Ray, had actually produced like almost half of that album that was coming out.
Back to the girl.
Yeah, exactly. So, because T-Ray's from down south, so me and T-Ray were kind of working in South Carolina prior to T-Ray going back up north. And so when I mentioned T-Ray to Search was like, oh yeah, he's like, Todd produced the album. I was like, yeah, I know, I already got all the songs. You guys sent me all the demos in the vans and all that stuff. So I was like, yeah, me and him used to make beats. And he's like, oh, let me hear your beats. So I started playing beats for Search out in the car. We went out right in the car in the parking lot, played beats for him. He liked what he heard. And then he was just brainstorming, and that's when he brought Riz up. He's like, I'm putting together like a new crew. He's like, I want 2 DJs. He's like, I already got one, Riz up in New York. And he's like, I want you to DJ too and produce for me. So of course I'm like, all right, dope, sounds good. But I'm like, who the hell is Riz? I'm like, because at that point I'm living off of tapes I get from BLS and Kiss or like what's on record, and so I had no idea who the hell Riz was. And I'm like, so now I'm trying to figure out who Riz is.
Were you aware of like college radio in New York?
not necessarily, not yet quite the Stretch and Bobs, not like that scene of college radio.
Yeah.
But more like the community radio shows. Like the Hank Loves and Awesome 2. Everyone that was doing DNA, Half Pint. All those dudes.
5'9", right?
Yeah. They were doing like more community based type shows. That was like the underground shows. So I was familiar with all them.
Yeah.
But Stretch and Bob came a little bit later.
Yeah, because I don't know if there's. I'm sure there's a generation of DJs and listeners that check us out that doesn't know the importance of college radio.
Absolutely.
Especially in New York, and how that was like the only voice for like hip hop, for like real fucking hip hop,
Right.
Like underground hip, because they just think like, oh shit, Wu-Tang, Nas, and that.
Right.
They think all that shit was just kind of naturally just happening in the music industry, but it wasn't getting played anywhere really,
No.
And college radio was really like kind of
For
the
sure.
voice, and just like
It's always been the forefront. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like it's always where people. There's no agenda on college radio. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? It's just like, yo, like this is dope. We're gonna play it. And so that's why you always hear, even when like Marley and Red were at their peak, the songs that they were playing, there would be a lot of crossover songs that you would hear, Audio 2, Super Lover C, like there was a lot of stuff those were like the big hits, and they were dope. But then you would go to like, DNA and Hank Love and them, and you'd hear like Surf Fresh and
obscure,
DJ
yeah,
Critical,
the obscure
and like,
type.
you hear like the underground, more indie type stuff. So you got to hear everything, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? So that's just a good example of like how we learned to do college radio. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Right.
just wanting to break anything that was dope and new. So then, so long story short, so then Search brings me up to New York, and then I finally meet Riz.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and since day one, been straight with him ever since. You know what I'm saying? So I
Yeah.
can't say there's not a lot of people that you can count on or that are as humble and as nice and attitude never changes. I don't think this dude's ever gotten mad except when the Raiders lost. You know what I'm saying? It's like this dude is always straight. What you see is what you get. So yeah.
So like I was looking at your timelines, and like I said, like Riz would go off and do his own thing. You'd go off and do your own thing. I remember you were part of a group, Nonfiction. I was like huge underground, and you were probably touring. You were doing all these shows, and then Riz, you were kind of getting your feet wet in clubs, and you were kind of like juggling kind of mainstream hip hop and underground at the same time.
I never wanted to pigeonhole anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We knew the underground, we knew the hip hop, and I always had that commerciality side too.
Yeah.
And, you play in the club, you got to be commercial for the most part.
Yeah.
Especially back then, or even now too, obviously. But I always wanted to keep a proper balance because we weren't really getting too many underground hip hop gigs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially ones that paid anything.
So like when you guys went on like tour with Search, that was when he dropped his first album, like the Back to the Grill Again, that
Yeah.
whole era.
Yep.
And then when you came back, what clubs were you kind of like spinning at? Because I was talking with Goldie earlier, and I was trying to like understand. I was like, because you came up with like Flex, right? Like kind of Flex kind of put you onto the Flip Squad.
Yeah, that
But I later found out it wasn't Flex's. Like Flip Squad was actually like manifested by Jessica Rosenblum.
Right. Yeah. Well,
And then-
she managed Flex
Right,
at the
right,
time. Yeah. And Flex put the crew together. So
Riz was already he was already spinning though.
I was spinning, but
Like Riz had a reputation like he was like the hitman. Like niggas knew Riz was no joke. Like we had already knew that. Like
Yeah.
that was already set in stone in New York.
Yeah.
So he didn't have no problem.
What were the early clubs like getting your feet wet and just like, kind of hitting the clubs and just starting to do that? Because it looks like you were both of y'all were like really focused on turntablism and like, or not even turntablism, just getting nasty and scratching and doing routines and mixtapes, right?
I think it all came from like me listening to like Latin Rascals back in the day and
Yeah.
92 KTU Paco Supermix because it was so intricate. Guys like that were making the edit splice tapes, and it was like just a crazy mega mix. And I always was into that. Like, wow, how's he playing three things at once? You know what I mean? And then he's making the words stutter. So like stuff like that made me want to technically learn how to do some of that stuff. Whether it was making the tapes or on the turntables.
What was like the club that y'all like you first popped off at? and everyone just started like recognizing and being like talking about you?
I would say HomeBase.
HomeBase.
Yeah. For me.
Goldie just asked you what was the best club of all time,
And I said HomeBase.
HomeBase.
That's where he was spinning at when I came up and
Yeah.
met him. Yeah.
It was crazy. I mean, artists every weekend doing shows. I was upstairs because they had 2 rooms. Main floor, Flex was downstairs, Flex and Cat. So a lot of people used to consider like upstairs kind of like a reggae room, but it wasn't. It was reggae, it was hip hop, it was everything. So you had kind of like hip hop on both floors. And Flex would get there late sometimes. And I know Cap, it was funny, rest in peace Cap, but he would send somebody upstairs to ask if I got this record. Yo, you got a copy of this? So he'd send his boy upstairs
Cap
to
was the worst
to get it because all his records were scratched.
Absolute
They were
worst.
scratched.
He used to come to B Street and it'd be like, yo, Cap again. You're fucked up.
So I would give him whatever record he needed for the main floor, and it was just it was funny like that. But yeah, I mean that club was something, man, like something.
It was just like organically, like I remember talking to Bill Spector, and he would tell me about those like the kind of early '90s and all the parties and shit, and it would just be like De La Soul would be in the building, and then they would just perform. Like so,
Right.
there was all these impromptu performances.
Yeah, they were just like guys you wouldn't even expect. Just
What was like
popping
the
up.
illest shit that you like the performances that y'all witnessed?
Onyx was pretty crazy.
Onyx was pretty crazy.
Wow.
Yeah,
Like
that-
Throw Your Guns.
Yeah, like that was the big record at that time. So cats were wilding there, man.
That shit used to be like a slam pit.
Yeah.
Like they
Yeah.
like, you know.
I would have to
Rock
sneak downstairs to catch the shows.
Yeah.
Because I'm upstairs playing, so I tell my boy, yo, just play a little, like 10. Just give me like 10 minutes. I just want to check
One
it out.
Rapper's Delight. Be right back.
Exactly, the long version. Yeah, man, it's some great nights there, man. That's when I actually met Flex and Jessica. That's when
Jessica.
the whole Flip Squad thing formed for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, when was the next time y'all kind of linked up?
So obviously he's doing radio, with Steve, and we're in the studio working on stuff with Search. We're on the road, and at the same time, we're now starting to record the next Search solo album. So I was producing all that. He was doing scratches on the joint. So the 3 of us would be in the studio all the time. So it was just like a hanging out pattern. It's like we were either in the studio on Long Island working, or I'd come out to see him Monday nights at BAU and hang out there, or we'd be on the road with Search. So it's like that was just kind of like the click, and that was the only people I knew in New York was him and Search coming into New York. So it's like I started meeting everyone through them,
Yeah. And then, how did you get involved in Fat Beats?
Fat Beats came along. Fast forward to when Search decided to step off from Def Jam. And then he ended up taking the label position at Wild Pitch. He brought me into the fold, so I started working at Wild Pitch. And while at Wild Pitch, my job was national director of retail. And so one day I get a fax from a store named Fat Beats saying, grand opening July 14th, 1994, come on down. And it was just like, it was a B-boy character on it. It was all graph. It was like, it was some hip-hop shit. So I was like, all right, so I'm going to go check this out. So I took Search down there for the grand opening. And as soon as we walked down the staircase and walked in, there was like Joe, the owner, was like B-boying on the floor.
Joe. Shout
the
out,
records
Joe.
weren't even actually like fully on the wall yet because they were still spray painting the walls with graph.
Right.
There was a DJ.
And where was it? Was it always on 8th Street or no?
The original location was 323 East 9th Street.
9th Street.
down,
21st and 2nd
downstairs.
Avenue, downstairs in the basement. Yeah, a little small spot.
I know it's Fat Beats as a completely different thing than what it was before you got involved. Fat Beats to me was like the mecca for underground hip hop.
Sure.
It was like one of the first representations of where I would say like what DJs really needed and wanted. Like
Absolutely.
it was like if we needed certain slip mats, if we
Right.
needed like the right needles, if we needed like
One-stop shop,
the scratch,
yeah.
the
Yeah,
scratch vinyls, and maybe like on like like I was like frequent at Rock and Soul, but
Sure,
they didn't
absolutely.
have like the Reasonable Doubt album, so they didn't have like the first singles that Rockefeller dropped. Can I Live?
You had
all
to go
this-
everywhere back
Yeah, we had to go everywhere.
Yeah.
had to go
and look
We had to do the
I
rounds.
better mention B Street.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
B Street.
I mean, look, Beach Street and Rock and Soul were the top 2.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Those were the top 2.
Yeah.
And then there was other ones like the little nook and crannies. There was Downtown with Dante.
Dante, yeah.
Bobito with
SNS,
Footwork.
Castle Hill.
Well, that was after.
Disco,
Yeah.
Disco-rama.
Yeah, but there was, you had to kind of go everywhere to see what everyone had because some
Right.
people would have an exclusive that someone else didn't
Then
have.
promos. promos. They would have
exactly,
promos, of all
promos
these
too.
different
Yep.
But if it was like one stop shop for the hip hop.
It was the only hip hop.
Yeah,
spot.
only hip
It was.
hop head.
I could go see Goldfinger and buy a washing machine at Beach Street. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
First floor, right?
it's like it was. Every other spot had something else that they were selling. You know what I'm saying? So
Fat Beats kind of like centered everything around the culture.
Yeah.
Like they had graffiti tapes, they had Wild Style, they had caps for spray cans.
Yes.
They had everything in the culture.
Basically anything hip hop related. Like
absolutely.
Yeah. For like the ultimate backpack, like hip hop.
It was just hip hop. It wasn't, backpack became something later on, but it was just all the elements of, we were all b-boys. Like, we cared about the music and we cared about the behind the scenes stuff, the way that everyone in this room does.
For sure.
We cared about the producers and what they were sampling and what they were using. And we cared about, Rocksteady was ill in Flashdance 45 minutes in. You know what I'm saying? It's like those moments is what Fat Beats was about.
For
and
sure.
I felt that day I walked down there. So from that point on, I would always go to Fat Beats to buy my stuff first. I would make sure I went there to buy whatever I was going to buy to support the store. OC's first in-store was at Fat Beats, and it was also Fat Beats' first in-store. So it was like, we were trying to help the store succeed. So a year in, Wild Pitch closed, and then the owner of Fat Beats, Joe, was like, yo, would you want to come help me out? Because, things are starting to pick up a little bit here.
Right.
And I was like, I don't know, I'm thinking I'm going to go get another label job, you know what I'm saying? And but he was like, just help me on the weekends, blah, blah, blah. I was like, all right, fine, I'll do that until I get another label job. And I never left.
Trapped.
I got stuck, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it just, 95 was like, from 95 to 96 was a huge growth in Fat Beats, you know what I'm saying? It's like, more word of mouth. Shout out to Stretch and Bob because they played a big part in advertising Fat Beats every single week, telling people, you can go down there to get a copy of this show. So people would come and get a copy of the show, and just, everyone that came just knew what it was like. They felt what was going on there, and so they knew that they had to come there. And plus, also, we were focusing on indie stuff. Like back then, there wasn't a ton of indie stuff.
That's a big thing, because like if I wanted the Arsonist, or if I wanted, Company
There we
Flow,
go,
or like the Socrates record, or if I wanted any of these, or like I was talking to somebody and they were talking about Eminem and everything, and I was like, obviously shout out to Shecky and the Game Records,
no doubt.
But Cage, I was remembering Cage, and what was it, Agent Orange, and I remember when that came out, and I think it was we didn't know like he was white, and there was like all this discussion about Cage, and if Eminem kind of took his style of like.
Right.
Like, this like talking shit and everything. I guess my question is like, when Fat Beats, how did it organically just become a place of just where independent rap and underground rap?
We were just all diehard B-boys, you know what I'm saying? It was like we wanted it to, we lived and ate the culture, you know what I'm saying? So it was like we wanted it to be the best representation we could of what we felt was dope. And that was always what was behind Fat Beats. And no disrespect to Beat Street, but Beat Street, because they were 10 times the size of us, you would go in there, and when their indie wall was at its peak, it was probably their indie wall was probably the size of all the Fat Beats, but they had everything, good and bad.
Yeah.
And we were, because we had limited space,
They curated it.
We were very specific about what we took in, and it was like, we were DJs too. So we were like, yo, if we're not going to play this on the radio or out, I'm not putting anything in for sale. I'm not going to bring it in the store to sell.
Yeah.
So we were very specific about what we brought in to sell in the store. So yeah, we definitely curated it to be the best of what was out there. And Beat Street might have had the same stuff, but they also had more stuff that they were just, because when you take stuff in a consignment, it doesn't hurt you, you know what I'm saying? But it does water down, the brand a little bit. And so we wanted
we had
to make
consignment
sure.
as well, you know what I mean? So it was pretty much like, if they didn't have a connect with Fat Beats, we'd be like, well, I guess you could bring it. If it sells, it sells.
Right.
That type of thing.
Yeah.
I remember when I would go to Fat Beats, I just get so nervous because I wanted to hear a record, but it was like they would have a DJ booth in the record store.
You didn't want to ask them?
No. So it is the problem. Like the the dude would just be like, because there'd be a DJ spinning in the record store, and he'd be scratching and just playing different records. But they're dope, and it's like You were probably spinning there, like a bunch of people were spinning there. Yeah,
Sinister.
Sinister.
We had, we had so
Yeah.
many like name people. Cypher was spinning there. We had everyone up there.
But I think like like if someone pulled like like a Biggie record, like Unbelievable, like can you play this so I could hear it? The motherfucker would be like, nah, you never
Well,
heard
you know
Unbelievable.
what? That
So I'm saying.
I'll tell you something. Look, straight up, we had a bad rep. As well as a lot of other New York stores for having attitude. It was especially clothing stores. You go into a lot of NYC clothing stores, it's like,
I mean, Supreme, it's the same thing with Supreme.
Absolutely. It was an elitist attitude,
Turntable Lab.
I'm not going to say I had it, but there were definitely people that worked there.
I started knowing a change in him.
I'll get the hell out of here. There were definitely people that worked there that, that give a little bit of attitude. And so I understand it was intimidating to some people.
But it was dope because it was like, and the last thing I wanted to do was interrupt a motherfucker and hand him a record and he'd be like, you never heard of this shit?
A lot of that came from the location. A lot of that came from the location. Y'all was right there in the village.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's very touristy. And then you got a record store that's kind of known. It's got this kind of niche. So if you got people coming in there that's just trying to find out what's going on, and they kind of come across a little...
Oh, yeah, well, that's the thing too. It's like it's the person's energy is what's gonna we got a lot of foreigners that would come into you know what I'm saying to buy stuff, and some of them would be a pain in the ass, and it's just like, dude, like
let's not forget about all the people outside selling this shit.
Oh my God, that's a whole other story. Yo, you listen to hip hop? It's like
ciphers outside.
It was a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah,
but
like you on your way, you go to West 8th, right? 8th Street. There's like Grace Papaya.
Yes.
And then you'd walk up the stairs to Fat Beats, but along the way there'd be like all these like independent rappers selling you a CD or something. Yeah. I remember Jin like tried to sell me a CD, that the Asian rapper.
Yeah, the Jin. You had a Jin story, right?
Yeah, I did.
For another time.
Yeah,
that's funny.
No, but I mean, it was just I remember I got some of the dopest mixtapes there too, and I know Beat Street. I just never made it down to Beat Street. For some reason,
thanks.
It was
I went there. Like I would go there twice. I was up. I was in town a little bit.
That's the thing. You had to go everywhere. Music Factory, right down the street.
You really had to make the rounds for sure.
You had to go to Queens. You had to go to Hot Wax, Music Factory in Queens.
I know there was something about me, and man, I was just like, man, I gotta go to Brooklyn, man. I don't want to go to Brooklyn. I'll go to 8 Ball Records. I'll go to like some of these other spots.
You weren't getting everything.
I wasn't getting everything. Yeah. With Fat Beats, and what was going there. Do you think there would have been a raucous and all this underground scene if there wasn't this kind of mecca and this that kind of everyone gathered at and people could see like, wow, there is a market for this. Do you know what I'm saying? You guys, I feel that's what you guys created.
You guys definitely developed that.
Correct.
Bold and under to where it's like you nurtured it and
nurtured it is the key word.
Nurtured is
like there's always. I mean, if you look at independence. There's been independence since hip hop was born. You know what I'm saying? But there wasn't an independent scene. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and that was the thing. We kind of made it a scene.
Right.
And a lot of the groups that were either working or coming by the store were that first wave of the movement, which was like, the non-fictions, the juggernauts, the arsonists, the natural elements, the X-Men, aka executioners.
Right.
These were all these crews that were coming up through the store. They were hanging out there all the time. They were working there. And so we started pressing these records up first. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, and that really helped not only the music scene of the vinyl, but then all the shows back then. If you look at all the flyers, it was all those groups that were doing all those shows.
They curated a whole movement.
Yeah.
And so by the time Raucous came around,
right,
all they had to do was kind of like just pick this one and that one.
Raucous helped us as much as we helped them because they had money.
Yeah.
So they were able to fund the movement. You know what I'm saying? It's like we just did it grassroots style, but they came in, put out dope artists, and then we actually distributed it for them. But they had the money behind it to do the videos and get it out there.
But Fat Beats was always like also like, for example, like Black Star, Mos Def, and Talib Kweli. Like I feel like there would have never been that if there wasn't a platform like a place like Fat Beats where a Mos Def ultimate, Universal MCs. What was
Magnetic.
Universal Magnetic MCs or the Reflection Eternal. Like if those records didn't kill it at
those
like,
are huge,
you know,
they were great.
where Raucous could be like, oh shit, these are like the stars of the underground scene. Let's sign them to Raucous. Where like Talib Kweli and shit. Oh, Mos Def. Let's put that together because Mr. Man and High Tech Talib Kweli are killing it with these independent records.
Sure.
Let's create this
well, I
label
mean,
for them.
because Raucous was doing things around the same time, but a lot of their first releases kind of went under the radar. Before they got to the most Stephs and Qualities and stuff like that. So they were trying to find themselves as well. And I think the whole purpose of Fat Beats, in addition to what we were selling, was telling people, because everyone at that time was trying to get a deal. You know what I'm saying? Everyone wanted to get a record deal. Everyone was like, doing something independent wasn't really, everyone's objective at that time. So we were like, we'll press your record up for you and then distribute it. So it was like, that was in 96. So and that also was because of the change in music. From 95 to 96, the Puffy era, you know what I'm saying, where like everything got shiny and everything got
jiggy,
very jiggy, commercial. Music was, like, hey, let's sample Diana Ross. Ooh, let's go. It's like it became something that we weren't used to. You know what I'm saying? We're still on De La, Tribe, PE, all this stuff. We're still on all this different variety of music, and still loving what's being sampled, still loving the drums of how Primo and Large and Pete are hooking things up, and then all of a sudden it just became so formulated. You know what I'm saying? And so it was more of a lane of, okay, like, we're gonna do this ourselves, and we're gonna show you how. Don't worry about trying to get a deal. We're gonna start putting your records out. And so by 96, we started pressing up. Between 95 and 96, we started pressing up and putting things out, and that really started Fat Beats distribution. And putting all.
Wait, what was some of the joints y'all put out during that time?
The first one was Rob Swift with the Cracker Jacks. That was the first single that was on Fat Beats, and then the second one was Nonfiction.
Which you were a part of.
Yeah, exactly. Those were like actually like on Fat Beats, but at the same time we just started like funding things. You know what I'm saying, and or just
have partnerships with other
exactly. Like we were pressing up all of Bobby Doe's Fondlem records. We were doing all that stuff, and like so we were just pressing up stuff for people and then taking our distribution fee on it, and that was really how that whole thing kind of came about.
That became the hub kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. And hubs are important. Hubs, we had Dave and Doug from D&D on the show not too long ago, and for those that never been to D&D Studios, that was a hub.
Right.
There's a ton of hip hop studios that people recorded at, but that was the studio, like where it was like you were just hanging out at a party, but like in a good way. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how Fat Beats was for record stores and for the scene. BAU was like that for hip hop radio.
It's like an infrastructure.
There was no other show that had as good as Red and Molly or Stretch and Bob were for what they did and the guests they had up there. The environment at BAU was electricity. You know what I'm saying? Like you walk in there and like you see like half of the new school hanging over here, like PE over. It's like everyone would just come every Monday. They weren't even on the show. They would just come in to hang out. So you would see at least 15, 20 different artists hanging out every week on Monday night when you go into the radio show. Those were I would say the three top for radio, retail, and studios, where it had that hub of like everyone coming together, where stuff was formulated there. You know what I'm saying? It was the nucleus for a lot of stuff.
The only thing that was kind of missing was the actual club. Like you guys did spot dates at different places, but if you would have had like a certain spot that everybody could have went there, then it would have went a lot faster.
Yeah, well,
you guys did Tramps and stuff like that.
Like
Tramps is what became that. You
and
know
then
what
the New York joint down in
New York Poets Cafe. Yep, exactly. But Tramps was where it bridged the gap. You know what I'm saying? And that shout out to Live and Direct. You know what I'm saying? Who promoted those events, and they would purposely book big acts and then have opening independent acts.
That was Peter, right?
That was Peter and Z. Yeah.
All right.
Did you ever have an interest in like commercial and rap in like the mainstream nightclub scene and all that stuff?
I used to do a spot called Parlay. And at that time was when 50's album just came out, and when like that whole era where like Neptunes were kind of popping and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That was my last commercial era. Ever.
You had enough? What was it?
I liked the music up to that point.
Up to that point.
Since then, I'm out.
So when it started going like to the down south, like the Snap era, you were out.
I'm out. Yeah. I don't even know the music.
The little flips.
Don't let him front. I got video of a recent thing he played at.
You doing Lappy Taffy?
And he-
All right.
he-
I did a wedding. I did a wedding for my niece.
doesn't matter.
And he gave me the music to play because I had to have a folder of some joints. I played like 5 joints that night.
Swag surfing? You was swag surfing?
I don't even know what the joints were. I'll tell you this much though: it was my first time listening to them and playing them, and every song had the same beat.
It was like a reggae rhythm.
It was exactly like a reggae rhythm. It was all different hip hop songs, and it was like, and they all had the same beat. It was like, it was crazy. I've never seen that in hip hop in my life where they had the same exact
That's
beat.
hilarious.
And I was like, I can't deal with this. But yeah, I just couldn't get into the sound. For me, it's like I never wanted to be a big DJ or a popular DJ or popular anything. I just wanted to do what made me happy. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and there's too many people that we know of that are DJs that are big because they want to be on air, because they play the role of what they have to play.
Right.
That's their lane. You know what I'm saying? That's never my lane. If someone offered me a job right now on radio and said, you'll be on the biggest station ever, but this is what you have to play, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? I'm a pass on that. You know what I'm saying? Because there's no fun in that for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, it has to be fun, you know what I'm saying, in order to do it and to make a living off of it. It's like, and I don't have one lane for what I do. Just like this man right here, you know what I'm saying? Scrams, does everything. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I have so many different outlets of what I do within hip hop culture.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't rely on any one thing, and I do them all because they all make me happy with fulfilling. I programmed an event at the Kennedy Center in DC. It's like, I can tell my mom about that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's like the radio stuff. A lot of people look at what we do on Sirius XM as like the pinnacle. I'm like, whatever, it's a radio show. It's like, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? If it ends tomorrow, it ends tomorrow. It's like, we've already done so much stuff and continue to keep doing things. The Fat Beats thing, that's a whole other level. Rocksteady Crew, that's a whole other level. You know what I'm saying? It's like, there's just angles. For me, it's just about contributing to the culture, actually, not just saying this is for the culture. It's truly like, look at my resume. You know what I'm saying?
True indeed.
Yeah, but for y'all to be on Sirius XM and like Shade 45, like over 10 years together, and still like carrying the torch for, underground hip hop and and keeping it going, I think it's dope. It reminds me of like Alchemist, where he's continuously just doing what he loves.
He made his lane.
And he made his lane to the point where it's become like some timeless shit.
Absolutely.
And
he's the king of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what's crazy, Crick? It's not so much that you're doing it for a amount of time. It's the integrity that you bring along with it. Because it's like, these guys been doing it since the early 90s.
It's how you do it, right?
And the brand is still intact. It's not like, remember that time when he did he put on the baggy hoop pants and
exactly. My name is my name. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's the way I live. It's like, your name has to precede yourself. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm very aware of making sure that anything that we do, I do is, and I already know this guy is like, I thought I was good, and then I met him, and I was like, I'm horrible. So it's like, I had to step my stuff up because of him. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and I saw his work ethic. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and I do that in a lot of stuff, but like, I don't practice like that. Like, this guy practiced all the time.
I don't practice either.
Back then, I'm saying, not now. But back then, it's like, I never practiced. Practice to me was like when we had to do something.
Right.
It's like, that was when I'd practice. But like, it just showed me that, like, okay, like, I really need to tighten up on some things.
Right.
And but that's like kind of like how I do everything. It's just like, I like to make sure that I put my all into whatever it is I'm doing, because it's like my name's going on it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Riz got that like athlete determination and diligence with like practicing. Like, you did 3 sports. Since
I was always a team player.
Yeah.
I actually enjoy teamwork instead of just solo stuff. I don't want the spotlight. I never was like that. I guess, rest in peace to my dad. He shined the spotlight on me, and I didn't like that.
Oh, really?
He was. I've never seen someone as big of a fan of their child as he was. Yeah. I mean, he was like, loved supported him wholeheartedly. was at events, was posting about him, talking about him all the time. Like he was.
And I would say
always so happy
nothing.
for him.
I would say nothing. He kind of was my mouthpiece, but I loved it at some point.
Yeah.
At some point, I thought it was a little too much. You're playing.
But his work speaks for itself. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? It's
But you've been, I talked with Goldie and we were talking about this. You're in so many duos, right? You've worked with so many people.
I'm a team guy, man.
And he's like, I always talk with Jamie, like, there's these dudes that can hop around with, like, they hang out with Bloods and Crips. Like, no, wait. But you're like a hood hopper. You can go, you're part of so many
I'm
crews.
accepted in every neighborhood.
Yeah. No, but Goldie, you were telling me, like, he's so solid, right?
It's like Riz just has like a pass, just straight up. Like his reputation precedes every situation. So it's almost like, even if you don't like that person over there, you'd be like, well, he's with Riz, we can't really.
Yeah, I just like keeping it nice and simple, man. No rubbing, no ruffling feathers. Just being me, man.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, I want to talk about this, like, leading up to Crooklyn Clan. I do want to talk about your contributions to, like, the tunnel and, like, spinning there in the era, because I never made it. I never made it to the tunnel. But that's where I would hear a lot about you and just how you would just, like, destroying shit in the tunnel.
I feel like the tunnel for me was a different. Again, it was the Mecca night on Sunday, which was so popular, and that was Flex's night, Jessica's night, where everybody and their mother would be in that party. And at one point, there was guys before me that opened up, but I started opening up for Flex.
Mm-hmm.
And I would get there at, say, I think the doors open at 10 or 9. I don't remember, but I used to get there around 9 o'clock. There would always be a line halfway down the block because I think ladies weren't free before a certain time. And I would actually, the first time I went there, they had the Uri mixer.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
all knobs,
what
right?
is this? Yeah, like freaking, So I actually learned on the fly there. And I would get there early just to practice, just to see if I can, let me just try and backspin good times on here and see if I can catch it, And week by week, I would get better and better. And there's something about mixing on those mixers because they sound so clean.
So good.
And like like mixing into songs was smooth and, the sound output was great. So I really learned on the fly with that. And, I'd play until I kind of built my own little following early because I'd play the regular New York classics early. Like we would all play the Mary Jane Girls, this and that,
right.
To warm up the night, and then start with the R&B records, the later R&B records, like the 90s R&B stuff. And I played that until Flex got there. And I would also sneak in underground hip-hop records, like I remember playing like Special Ed, what was that, Never Ever, that Premier did. Like I would sneak in records that kind of nobody really heard except on, the radio shows that we did. And I kind of got like a crew of people that would come just to hear that stuff and kind of built a small little following just, within the first 2 hours of the night. So I was really proud of that at that point. And then, waiting for Flex to come in and then the night would start. And I would just hang out in the booth and see the mayhem that went on in that club. But it was amazing, man. Like so many artists that would pass through, so many DJs, promoters.
No, it's definitely a lot of DJs.
Right? Oh, a lot of DJs.
Trust,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Trust. See, the thing is, he's being really humble and really modest. But the thing is, people had already knew about in New York about Riz from the seminar days. Like, just watching this guy, like, oh, he's around them. We heard about him. Like, your name rings bells. Like, I'm not sure if you DJ'd in high school, but I heard about you in high school.
Really?
I heard about you in high school. It was from, you played football or some shit like that?
I played,
You
football, basketball,
was in the paper
baseball,
a couple of times or something?
Yeah.
Like that? We heard about this guy from my neighborhood. I live in downtown Brooklyn, so it's a little ways from where he's from. He's from Canarsie.
Yeah.
We heard about him from there, and that's a nice little ways away.
Right.
So, we kept our ears open like, we heard about, Riz, oh, he's scratched, oh, Rich. We definitely, his name rang bells early. So DJs knew what time it was with Riz.
Like a lot of the early, like I would say Rich and Majesty were the guys I practiced with the most, like on a daily basis.
Now, Majesty was in Juice. He was the DJ that was in Juice.
He was the DJ
that Battle Q.
Mm-hmm.
So the
And
pump,
we-
pump, pump, yeah.
and we were talking
yeah.
about my the turntable cases. Yeah, I had the little stupid Radar logo on there, so I knew it was mine. 'Cause I lent them to Raj, and they were filming the show, and I was like so happy to see them in there, and I was happy to see him actually, killing it.
Yes,
He's the ghost DJ, right?
Yeah, wasn't that Scratches?
Scratch was doing cues. He was doing
cues,
He was
right.
doing
Right, and then I think I heard Cameron was doing scratches from YBT. He was doing some of the overdub scratches.
from the scene when he was in the crib.
Right.
Doing that shit.
You know, like how how important that movie is to so many
Really is.
upping DJs from my generation. How many people have we had? How many guests have we had that mentions Juice? You know what I'm saying? And that was that's what made us all want to become DJs.
Yeah.
Pretty much from that era.
It's crazy.
Wait, was it your turntables in the battle scene, or in the
I don't-
bedroom when he was making
No,
the
the
mixtape?
battle scene.
battle
The battle scene.
Yeah.
But they just didn't have the equipment, or
I don't remember
got a
what it
call
was.
that,
I got
yo?
the call. I'm like, yo, take them. And that's it. That's my claim to fame and juice.
you know what? One of okay.
Nah, I don't.
Damn, you could have put him in a museum or something.
Yeah.
This guy's the guy who's got all the goodies.
50th anniversary.
You know, one of my favorite mixtapes, and I was talking with Goldie earlier, and I think we all agreed. You know, it's maybe one of the top 5 mixtapes of all time. The Live from Brooklyn, Part 1 and 2, and it's up there with, Kid Capri, Old School 1, 2, 52 beats.
Come on, man.
Yeah,
No. We're not fucking around. I actually told him, I said, you know what? Now that I think about it, Live from Brooklyn is the next generation of 52 beats.
It's just the updated.
It's an updated samples, and it was the new anthems and all the samples updated for the next generation, which was probably me or and it was I was that was our 52 beats, because I would listen to 52 beats, but I didn't relate to that era it was those are classic old school breaks, and I was oh, that shit was dope. They were probably playing that in the parks, and
Right.
it was the staples. But Live from Brooklyn, Part 1 and 2 that's our 52 beats.
Wow. That
You know?
means a lot, man.
No, I
Shout
mean,
out to Capri.
you never heard that before?
I mean, I've heard people enjoyed it. I heard people use it for piss breaks. They would put it on, go take a piss and then come back.
Yeah.
But
No, I mean, and then that came about. Those were actually your live routines.
some of them
were live routines.
Live from Brooklyn, it wasn't exactly all live.
Right.
You know what I mean? Obviously, because there's some things that you can't really do live,
Mm-hmm.
at least back then. But I have to shout out Operator M's, because he was the one that orchestrated that whole thing.
Oh, dope.
Yeah.
And if you were on Serato early on in New York, you definitely have some MP3s from M's.
Oh yeah.
Somehow everyone got a library from M's.
He's the
on
first one I
Serato.
saw playing on Serato.
On Serato.
He got me on it.
Yeah. Live from Brooklyn, and then I remember the double CD. I bought it, but you also gave me a copy. We met, actually. It was funny how we met, right? Because it started with beef between me and Sis or something with Finesse. You remember?
But I remember it
It was at 1 with Joey Morrissey's
Joey
party
Morrissey parties.
on Sundays at 1.
But
And
you
I
know
was
me, I'm not.
yeah.
I don't want no beef. I'm
Yeah.
going to hang out, man. And I remember you were DJing, and I
Yeah.
think you told me something I kind of have this little weird feeling about what's going on with the promoter and Finesse or whatever. But
Yeah. It
What-
was.
tell me about it, because I really don't know.
Yeah. So I was just an upcoming DJ, but it was during the time so there was this party Sunday at 1.
Right, which was dope. yeah.
Sundays at 1, and it was Joey Morrissey, big promoter, and it was DJ Finesse, who was one of the nastiest
For
fucking
sure.
DJs.
Shout out Finesse.
Yep.
Shout out Finesse, and it was a house DJ, but it was a time when it was they were splitting.
Split it, right.
It was the house DJ for 30 minutes,
Yeah.
and then Finesse would get on and
Yeah.
kill it,
They
then the
would
house DJ would
come
kill
back
it,
on, yep.
and they would go back and forth. And I was working with Unique and Kiki.
Okay.
So this is when they kind of branched off from Serafina Wednesdays, and they were doing Pangea.
Right.
And they were doing show, and they heard me at Pangea, and then they were like, "We want you to do show," and they were like, "Oh, we're gonna open a new club PM. We want you to be a part of that." And I think Joey Morrissey heard me, and he was just like, "Yo, I want you to do what you do at their clubs, where you're mixing house and hip hop and classics,
right.
and I want you to do that on Sundays." And I didn't know who was there, so I just did it. And I think Finesse thought, I think he saw me the night before or the week before. So Finesse saw me talking with Joey, and Finesse kind of thought maybe I told Joey, yo, like, I could do what Finesse is doing and these guys for cheaper.
Did you say that?
No.
Nah, I'm joking.
No, what he did was I said, I don't know what your party, I've never been to your party. So he said, come down to Sunday and check it out and let me know if you want to fuck with it.
Right.
So I came down and I saw Finesse, and I didn't know him at the time, and I was like, he's killing it. And I was just like, yo, like, I'll give it a try, like, I was so young, I didn't realize I should have maybe, I didn't know Finesse, but like, I don't know, like, how does that work? Like,
was he the resident there on Sunday?
He was the resident with the house DJ. But
Okay.
maybe at that time I should have, like, I don't know, like, I just didn't know him. So like, I maybe warned him like, oh, like, they want me to do a Sunday. Is that cool with y'all?
Right.
And then I think I did that Sunday, and like Finesse was tight, and then Scissorhands is obviously one half of Crooklyn with you guys, and he was tight, and I think they fucked up the flyer the first night I did it, and they put DJ Crooklyn.
I think I remember.
Remember this?
I remember that part.
And then I think Scissor, and then it was like, I think, and I remember we talked, and then they were like, I thought he was DJ Crooked. Why is he trying to become Crooklyn and then take our boy shit like Crooklyn Clan shit?
Wow.
And so
They set you up, right? Set you up. Put you in the hoosky. Right?
So like, I think I did the night and I did the second night, and then I think maybe the second or third night I saw you and Scissorhands, and Scissor was just grilling me. And then, Sean Perry was with me.
I love Sean, man.
And he was like, yo, that's Scissorhands and Riz. And they're like, yo, they checking you. Like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. And then I was like, fuck, what's going on? Like, yo, like, what the fuck? And I'm like, yo, I was like so nervous. I was like, what? Are they mad at me? Like, what happened? And then Joey Morrissey at the end of the night, he's like, yo, so, I don't know what happened, but Sis says he wants to, like, do next week. So I think what the thing was, the Scissorhands was like, yo, I'm gonna get this Sunday back for the crew. He's like, I'm gonna take this Sunday
We had
back.
nothing
for the
to do
crew.
with that party.
I know, but yeah, I think it was like with Finesse, and I think he was just like talking to Morrissey and like,
Right.
nah, this dude is like undercutting Finesse. He's stealing the Crooklyn Clan name. Like, like let me take this whole shit back, and like, yo, like I'm gonna take this shit back.
Let's get Joey on the show, man.
Yeah, I gotta get Joey.
Get Joey on the show.
Long story short, like, he did the next week, and I was a fan. So me and Sean went through, and we were listening to him, and I'm like, oh shit, he's playing 4 seasons. I never thought to play December, like,
Right.
And we were just like fanning out.
Wait, who did it the week after?
Scissorhands.
Did I even go? Or?
Nah.
Probably
I think
not.
you were just there because you were kind of like, it's like, I thought.
I go there.
Yeah.
I used to go there on
Yeah,
Sunday
yeah.
sometimes. It was a good dope party.
And then, but then like the next time I saw you was probably in Vegas when you had your residency at Pure.
Right.
And then we would come check you at Pure. And it was just dope because we would just fan out, me and Never.
That was fun, Pure, man. That was a good party.
We used to wild out in Vegas.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
And then these guys would capture me and, like, take me to, what was it, Rhino?
But
I ain't into any of that. But, like, all of a sudden, I see, somebody sending, like, a girl my way. And I'm like, yo, what are you doing? And then I'd look over to you and you'd give me that, like, you'd look away, like, with a grin on his face. But, yeah, it was some good times in Vegas, man, for
we used to do a thing where, like, we would just, like, we would go see Riz. We'd hang out, and then we'd take him to Rhino because it was kind of like a DJ hangout.
Right.
So whoever was DJing that night, we'd all end up at Rhino and just hang out. But we'd take, like, maybe the strippers that no one wanted dances for. We didn't, like, no one was fucking with them. We'd be like, yeah, go to him.
That's good to know now.
Yeah. And we'd be like, yeah, keep that. Give him like 4 dances. Give him like 5. And then Riz would be like, yo, stop. He's like, no more. He's like, Crooked, stop, please. He's like, no. He's like, yo, just leave. No, just sit over here.
I'm good.
He's giving me a massage. Just give me a massage. It's like, Crooked, please stop. No more. But that was the crazy time. But that was my introduction. I was just like, fuck, man. I always thought, like, I was like, man, I really fucked up. I'm like fucking up in this New York scene. Everyone fucking hates me.
Oh.
And Crooklyn Clan and all that shit. But you end up being like one of, like, in this whole New York, like, DJ scene, there's a handful of DJs that are heroes that we meet that are like, yo, these are like real, like solid, humble motherfuckers. They're legends, but they're like actual people. They put in the work, and they're real motherfuckers. And you were one of the first DJs that I've met, because I met so many heroes, and I got shit on, and I got treated like shit. I've opened for them, and they've just treated me like shit. But it was like you know, Goldfinger, you were one of the few like nightclub motherfuckers that we looked up to, and we were like, oh, yo, like there's actually, like these are like our heroes that we actually look up to, and they're cool.
Thank you, man.
Shit,
I definitely appreciate it.
Nah. But I do want to talk about Crooklyn Clan, and like, kind of like,
What was the first Crooklyn Clan joint?
yeah, we were talking about that. Go ahead.
Was it Coffee Breaks?
Coffee breaks, right?
Coffee Breaks, right?
Coffee breaks.
See, I got it right. See, this retail, baby.
New York.
We can go even further because he would know, because he did a party break before, right? Before Crooklyn Clan. Didn't you put with us? No, with us.
No, it was
On
like
Nervous.
Yeah. No, yeah, well, we started. The Brooklyn Slumlords was before Crooklyn
yeah.
Clan. So it was Riz and Scribble, and actually the first one was with was it Firstborn?
Firstborn, yeah.
Firstborn from YBT. They did like the first Brooklyn Slumlords party break, and then I guess Firstborn broke out or something like that, and then
Yeah.
me, you, and Scribble
did one.
started doing Brooklyn Slumlord stuff. We did one, and then that was it. And then that's when everything split. That was the last Brooklyn Slumlords, and then me and Scribble did a Suburban Vinyl Outlaws on Nervous, and then him and Scissorhands did Coffee Breaks.
I think it was, the one we did was, I think, Brooklyn Slumlords presents Crooklyn Clan, and that's, the one that me and Sis did.
Right.
And y'all just what came about with all the party breaks? Because I was talking with Goldie. I was like, that was kind of like, there was always party breaks, right? With Kenny Dope.
For sure.
Todd Terry.
Shout out to Kenny, shout out to Todd.
You know, we were saying that Fusion Beats was really the first party break,
Sure.
like
Right.
hip hop party
Sure.
break.
What started that whole thing? Like, what started the party breaks from y'all perspective? They were just tools that y'all needed, or you wanted
No,
to
Transition records sometimes.
transition?
Yeah. Well, back then I always wanted to do a record like that, and it's funny that we talk about Doug and Dave, because I think I asked Doug years ago. I'm like, "Yo, I want to make one of those mix records. Think I can do it at D&D?" And he's like, "Yeah, come in anytime." But that was those beginning records were things I always wanted to. I wanted to be on record. I wanted to be on Nervous Records because they were making those type of party records with other guys. Frankie Feliciano. There was there was so many dope guys.
Flex did a couple on Nervous.
Right. Mm-hmm. He did this,
6 million ways.
Sick. That was
6 million ways to
dope,
die.
man.
Yeah.
You know, and
was
a lot of those records were meant to just be like Goldie was
Transition.
saying, transition records, or things that you always had in your head that you just wanted to put on vinyl.
So that's what it was, that you had these like ideas in your head.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
You're
almost like how people are doing wordplay transitions,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
DJing. It's like we're doing the same thing in our heads, just on a record. You know,
Right.
like, yeah.
So it's a party break, so that
Right.
you have it, and they'll kind of like do something in the crowd, and then you throw on the actual record that they
Right.
sampled,
Right.
and then you extend it a little bit. You know what I mean? So a little secret weapon,
Right.
secret weapon type of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So you just had these in your head, and you're like, man, like I wish I record this, like multi-tracks and
Right,
everything.
because
Like,
we were already doing those multi-track mixtapes.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I want to be on record. I don't want to be on a tape. You know, I wanted to take it to another level.
so like when I think of like when I was coming up in the scene and starting to do clubs, when everyone talks about wordplay and like routines and quick mixing, your name always came up. I'm not saying you revolutionized it or any like
No,
or
not
you
at
were the
all.
first or anything.
Yeah.
But like I want to kind of talk about that because I rarely saw you in the '90s live, but your name was synonymous with all those things, with like, the Biggie to Slick Rick routines or stuff like that, like those kind of wordplay routines, and like taking those and quick mixing, like
Right.
all of that. But can you explain a little bit about that, like?
Yeah, I think there was a bunch of DJs that had their routines. You
Right.
know, it's just what you came up with, and I guess the problem with those things is like if somebody hears you do something, but then somebody heard the same mix somewhere else, they automatically judge who did it first.
Right.
And it's like, to me, it's just like great minds think alike. You know what I mean? We're all creative. And yeah, we're gonna think of the same thing sometimes, you know. And it's just like if you happen to do a bigger party and it's heard there, then maybe you might get the credit for it.
Right.
I was never into that. I just wanted to do what I did.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, And on vinyl, I used to take pride in doing a set, and I called it the old school set. And this was probably like in the late 80s, early 90s. And so old school set, you're thinking, 5, 6, 7 years before that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it was like, the classics. It was like, 900 number. That was like the, late 80s, or late 80s maybe?
Yeah.
89?
89, yeah. But I remember stacking the records up, vinyl on vinyl, something that this guy would never do, and he probably hates me for doing it. And I'll explain to you about that after. But I would stack vinyl on vinyl, and it had to be at least 20, 25 records, and, in order, because I knew what routine I was going to do. And I remember, to me, that was the most exciting part of the night. Besides just regularly playing the stuff through the night, that was my favorite, like, all right, here it is, here's my power set. And, I used to get great reactions from it.
Right.
And it was kind of quick mixing.
Yeah.
I wasn't by far the innovator at all. You know what I mean? I just did what I did.
No, yeah, he did it better. Right? 'Cause there might have been other people doing the stuff, but the way, again, that mindset of just trying to perfect what it is that our output is, and it was just the preciseness of the mixing of it going from one record to the other. I mean, there's people that are on Serato now on radio that like are messing up every other song. You know what I'm saying? It's like this dude's on vinyl and doing quick mixing, and it's perfect.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
So he's not going to say it, but he said it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, continue.
And I remember there was times when I had, I couldn't let the 4 bars go by, or I'd get really mad at myself.
Right.
The crowd wouldn't give a shit because they didn't know.
They didn't know. They didn't know what you was going to do.
Right.
They just fucking
But I would always like slap myself, like, damn, I missed it. Or somebody's trying to get in your ear, and you're like, yo, I got to mix right now. So
That's me, Riz. That's me. That's
right, yo, get out of here. Come on. So yeah, I'd have the record stacked, and sometimes it would even be where I'd put one in my mouth, pause,
Yeah.
and then you know what I mean. Like I would throw it sometimes 2 bars, and then I'd have it ready to go. Boom, off, and then I'd take the other piece of vinyl and throw it. He'd hate me for that again, but that's just the way I operated. When it came to those little old school power sets, and
And that change of pace changes the whole dynamic of the party.
it really
Just that,
did. You just saw
because
the
then
energy.
you're more involved now, and it's like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? You off to the races.
I mean, yeah, and you're gonna upset people that want to hear the record. You know what I mean?
Right.
Want to hear a verse or something like that. So I've gotten plenty of these, and from the crowd. But the majority of the time, everything worked out fine. So
I think it's like when I think about like quick mixing and what you were doing, it's like a combination of like, obviously to me, like the origins of hip hop, of taking the best parts of the
Right.
breaks. And it could be 4 bars, it could be 2 bars, repeating it, but it's also energy based,
Sure.
right? And it's also the shock value that I think that is so important, and like the unpredictability,
Sure.
right.
that really caught everyone, and then just kind of continuously catching people and surprising them,
Right.
and shocking them and giving them the best parts of every song that they know they're going to sing along to,
Right.
which created this recipe of high energy power sets, taking only the best, and being like, you're never going to get that kind of arc up of energy with like just playing whole songs or like
No,
2
right.
verses
Never.
or anything.
Never.
Sure.
So at some point, you don't want to do a whole night like that.
Right.
But when you hit them with that, it's just like, boom, it's almost like a house set where it has a build up.
Sure.
And then the one drops, but it's doing it with hip hop.
Right.
But I think it's like because I remember in the 2000s and mid 2000s, we would do quick mixing. And I would tell somebody, "Oh man, you're so dope," and they'd be like, "You got to hear Riz, man. You got to," because everyone's just like, "Yo, you got to hear. You never heard Riz. You never heard Riz." So I like back then we were just like, "Yo, I got to hear Riz. We got to hear Riz." And like, in my head, I was like, "Yo, he was like probably one of the first to really perfect the quick mixing thing." And to me, to have it affect us to the 2000s and even now to the 2010s to the 2020s, it's still carrying on where the quick mixing is still
mixing,
going
yeah, a
on.
lot of people still
and that
do it.
unpredictability
Right.
and the manipulation of energy, it's still going. And it's that New York style that you don't know that you're kind of laying the foundation and building another aspect to the craft of like crowd rocking and DJing. But I think it's so instrumental.
I mean, I was never much a mic guy.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, there was
Right.
a time when I was.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you calling your name out?
I was doing the regular crowd participation stuff, but it wasn't like to, like a Capri level or anybody,
Yeah.
not even close. I mean,
Can we hear a little bit of it? No.
yeah, 1, 2, you know what I'm saying? Rap's out of control. No, for real, but I did some of it, and then I remember at that time, like a lot of the clubs didn't want you on the mic.
Yeah.
Nah, it was taboo.
Right. The managers would come over and say, yo, no microphone.
Yeah.
Now today, forget it. If you're not on the mic, you're whack.
It's just a part of it.
Right.
Got to keep people.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Customers want to talk about now.
Right.
When was the era when they didn't want scratching in the clubs? Or that was always like maybe in the mainstream clubs they never wanted scratching because it just introduced like too much of a hip hop.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would say like, easy on the scratches. I mean, I never really cut like crazy in the club anyway. It's just all about, your crowd.
Yeah.
Sometimes people would go in there and think it was like a DMC or something like that.
Right.
You get people like, what are you doing? It's a party. So you had to have that balance of knowing when to scratch, or if you're going to scratch, do it tastefully, over the music, and don't overdo it.
So with the party breaks with Crooklyn Clan, in my head, I'm kind of thinking, wow, I was hitting them with this, and I switched over to this, and I switched over to that. It kind of, to me, goes into what Crooklyn Clan was doing when the beats would change every 16 bars.
Right.
And it would switch over. And these songs work in the club. And if I do that arrangement on a party break, it's going to be crazy. And if I loop these acapellas or these sings over this shit, it'll keep everything moving. And it's almost another version of your quick mixing or, some of the ideas. And you would work with scissor hands to put it together.
Ideas, right. Yeah. It was being in the club was a big plus for making those records because you knew what was hot, and it wasn't to replace the records. It was just another kind of genre transition record or whatever you want to call it, party starter, where they would work,
right?
And I
Let me tell you, the Franklins was a sample of the Benjamins, right? And
right.
They did that record, Franklins.
It was a Hypnotized beat and it was the Benjamins.
No, you did a remix.
Two versions,
that was
right?
Remix.
That was a remix.
The
Benjamins was the first one.
The first one, yeah.
Which was a boot of the Benjamins.
Exactly. So your record came out with the party break with the choose. What was it? Choose one. That was choose one.
Yes, choose one.
Choose one.
Came out before.
Choose one came out when the Benjamins was still on bootleg. Nobody had the Benjamins. Nobody had the Benjamins. They only gave out about 150 copies of the Benjamins at the Gavin. That was it.
Yeah, and I didn't even have that one.
York.
I had the boot that somebody pressed in one, probably Beach Street or something.
Yeah, there you go. So what happened was nobody had that record. So Choose One actually took a life of his own because it was playing as the Benjamins before people got the Benjamins.
Wow.
So that was your placeholder. Like, I don't have the Benjamins, but I got the beat, so I'm gonna play this record, and that's where that shit took off.
Right.
It was almost like 5 months before Benjamins came out. You had that record going.
Yeah, and again, it was just meant for the clubs, just to rock the party, just another element to bring some life to the party.
Yeah, because when I listen to even Be Faithful, it sounds like a quick mix set where you bring the Queen pen back, and then before you hear a party is a party, you throw them off and you drop.
Right.
It's
like little teasers. They're like, hey, this is coming in, but no.
I caught you off.
I got you.
But the way all these Crooklyn Clan party breaks are organized, they're fucking quick mixes.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's crazy.
Just for energy, man. It was all for the energy. Yep. And the thing about like making those records, and shout to Sis because he's the one who actually taught me the ASR 10, and that's what we made it on.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about it. He taught me how to use the machine. And then once I started learning that machine, I had no room in my room because I had so many records. So I had the machine on my bed, and I would sit Indian style and start banging out stuff and the ideas that I had because I had all the records, from the labels and the pools and all that. So I had all the samples, and I would formulate that day and come up with just ideas of what's going to be the next one. All right, what's a dope beat we can use? What's some dope chants? And then we'd go by Scissor's house and just arrange everything else and finish it, man. Sometimes he would have ideas, he would give them to me, and I would start, doing my thing. I remember there was one that we made, the ladies joint, which it was like the reggae chop.
Mm-hmm.
Dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun.
Where my ladies at?
Right,
Where my
right.
ladies at?
And I never knew, like, until I went overseas, that record overseas was the biggest one out there, bigger than all the other ones that were bigger in New York. And to me, like, that just made me think, like, yo, there's just another world out there, man.
You're right.
You know what I mean? Like, just to know that record did great, and like, it was cool here, but it wasn't like one of the bigger ones.
Well, it's crazy that Be Faithful is like, I don't. It's,
It's
a platinum. It's like platinum, multi-platinum record. You don't know.
All I can say is,
Still a couple thousand copies.
Yeah, this is
That's it.
Yeah.
all I can say is I'm just happy to be a part of it. That's all
And
I
he
can
also
say.
did the ghost joints, not even the Crooklyn Pan joints. He did the other joints too.
Which ones?
Wright Brothers.
That's when like the business started getting a little weird,
A little shaky.
you know, with the label stuff and everything.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
That's when, you know, as soon as I see stuff like that, see it, man, I'm
Yeah.
removing myself from all the drama.
I had to talk him into doing a joint for B Street.
Really?
He did a break for.
Did we do one?
Yeah.
Which one was that?
I can't remember the name of it, but you did a break for us. That was I think it was with
Well, if you don't remember, it obviously wasn't that good.
no. It was I think it was the one with the Method and Red joint. The Rockwaller joint.
Oh, the Rockwaller beat.
Yeah, but that one was
That was the Wright Brothers.
the one that I hear Flex still playing that
Yeah.
a lot.
Y'all don't give a
Y'all don't give a fuck,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
we
yeah.
don't give a fuck.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it
Right.
started with the.
Yeah.
It started with the Do It Again.
And I remember I was
Yeah.
like, what using that part, I know it wasn't on beat.
Right.
It was just an intro. But like me, the crazy nut that I am, I had to put everything on beat. So if you listen to those chops in the beginning, they're all on beat.
Yeah.
Brr, brr.
You sped it up.
And that's how I
Yeah.
can chop the part that came in later. You'll hear like brr, brr, brr,
Yeah.
brr, brr, like there's a method to the craziness, you know.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that's what I enjoy doing, man. So you know.
So wait, how did you guys link up with Armin van Helden? Wasn't it on AV8? That was his
I mean,
label.
no, it was. I think AV8 had to do with Armand in the beginning. I
Yeah,
think he might have been part of the
Okay,
label.
okay,
or
okay.
it was
Right,
only-
right.
It was never really a connection with that. The way we got hooked up with AV8 was through a guy named Manny Napori, who was one half of the Nubian Crackers, and they did
They did
dope
some
party
incredible
records
shit,
too, man. Like
Right,
they were putting
Yeah,
on.
but
Yeah,
Stretch, right? Stretch did a Nubian Crack.
I think Stretch did
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, that was
on Big Beat.
Big Beat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we met.
And Sam Sever too, I think, did one, didn't he?
Or-
Yeah, a few people. So we met Mark at AV8 through Manny, who was, I think, either working with him at the time. I don't remember, but that's how we got the introduction to AV8.
So then after that, with the distribution and everything, and you guys just kept working and making those party breaks. You just like, at what point were you like, I gotta just like, we gotta pull back, or was it when the labels just started getting involved a little bit?
It wasn't even pulled back. It was more of just like, you know, how many years are we going to keep doing this? How effective are they still? Because, you know, things were changing. So the party breaks, you know, were crazy in the club for a good amount of time. And then it started to be like, these aren't working like they used to because, you know, things were changing.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, maybe we'll stop doing this party break stuff and maybe like start doing some mashups. You know, like a little
Right.
bit different.
That was the mashup era.
Yeah, that whole mashup era. So.
And then by that time, it was the MP3 era. So it's like you didn't need distribution.
And then it was the OK Corral after
Right.
that. Yeah. Everything was.
Yeah. So like you guys in the midst of the late 90s leading up to the 2000s, you guys came together for your radio show. But before that, you were overseeing and you were filling in for the Stretch Armstrong, the Bobito show.
Right.
And you were filling, I think Stretch was kind of, I don't know if he was like doing shows, he wasn't able to.
He's
like,
out of town, right?
He was
out
doing
of
a lot.
town.
He started
Gigs.
getting a lot of club gigs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like 94-ish, somewhere around there, you know, that he started, I guess, like his name was starting to really pop more. And so he was getting out of town gigs. He was going overseas, stuff like that. And so, so I was filling in a lot for him when he couldn't be there. And I was happy as could be to do it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, you were so tapped in. You were like becoming the face.
yeah.
I had the records.
Yeah, Fat
from the
Beats.
store.
Perfect
Yeah.
fit.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's like the perfect synergy coming together.
Yeah.
But were we doing NYU at that point?
You were doing more like 96?
You were doing NYU with
Martin and the Mayhem.
Martin and Mayhem.
Shout out to them, yeah.
He was on NYU like, around that time, like 95, and I was just filling in on Stretch and Bob from whatever, for all those years. And then we started our thing. Then they got kicked off. What happened was they were cursing and drinking up in the studio.
Wasn't me.
Wasn't him. And so NYU kicked them off the air, and then someone else got the show. And then I think it was probably like 6 or 8 months later, he was like itching to get back on radio. And so he came to me. He was like, what about me and you stepping to the person that has it, which is Lynn Gonzalez, and seeing about doing the show with her. Because he was like, I had the records from Fat Beats, and obviously we already worked together anyway. So we stepped to Lynn. We said, how about us joining you? Because she didn't have a set DJ every week. She kind of like would have just guest DJs, whatever. And she was also young. She actually went to NYU, so she wasn't really like as knowledgeable about a lot of the artists and and all stuff. So it's like we thought we would definitely bring a lot to the table.
Sure.
And so she agreed, and we came up with the name Halftime Show, which actually behind that was because 2 reasons. One, because he's such a friggin' diehard football fan. I was like, let's call it Halftime. But also because we were on Wednesday night, and Thursday night was Stretch and Bob, and Tuesday night at that time was Ellie and Vaz and them that were on KCR as well. Mm-hmm. They had a fairly new show, Night Train. So we were on between them.
Yeah.
So we were like, Halftime Show.
Yeah.
Did you guys have 2 shows?
No,
just one, just Halftime.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
But you guys got awards for that, right? You guys got
I don't think
a nod.
we ever did. Do we ever do it?
No?
I don't think so.
I think we got
Did we?
the only award I think we got, not Wild Man Steve and myself. It was at the Gavin or something. Yeah, that was the only thing. So
and then how long did you guys do the radio show together?
Well, he jumped ship early. He was there for about.
Is this when you went to KTU?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. No, but you know what though? We started in '98. It was probably around 2001 when he left the show, and music was really bad at that point. Honestly, it was like the beginning of the 2000s. Everything started changing, So it's like
for you, it was really bad.
Not just for me.
For some of these guys, it was the best ever.
We're not talking about these guys. They're not guests on the show right now. All right, listen. So the music, even for what we were doing, like because when we would go to the radio show, we would bring a bag each of records, sometimes a bag and a half of records, whatever, and you had more than enough stuff to play. You had A side, B side, whatever. Plus, we would have a few exclusives. We'd rock on that, whatever.
And that would last for a month.
Yeah, that would last for. I mean, you weren't getting.
You're repeating.
You weren't getting a new bag the next week. It was the
Right.
same stuff the next week. You just play a different way, whatever. By the time 2001 came around, we weren't even filling up a bag of records of like what was playable for us on the show. It was just the music was really getting very keyboardy. You know what I'm saying? It was losing its soul.
It was the beginning of the Triton keyboard.
It absolutely was.
Right.
It absolutely was. You know what I'm saying? So it was like everything was just really changing in a different direction. And so he was like, I ain't feeling any of this. So he bounced. And I wasn't really feeling it, but I was still in Fat Beats. So there was still enough indie stuff kind of coming that I was able to make it work. But it was definitely, a low.
Slim Pickens.
Slim Pickens during that time of trying to make it work, and then eventually it picked back up again.
I've had this conversation, and I've talked to like different DJs about this, about kind of when hip hop, the production changed, and like when scratches started disappearing from records, and when the production changed, and it was like we were thinking everything changed when DJs stopped producing for the rappers, and when producers just became producers,
right. Yeah,
and then it was kind of like with Swiss Beats and like this and Pharrell, like this whole new era of keyboard. No one wanted to sample anymore.
Keyboard scratches too, right? They did some keyboards.
Little rubs.
Trackmasters. Trackmasters had the little right. Trackmasters had the
Trackmasters.
They had the same jigga scratch on the Nas.
The Nas.
If I Rule the World to whatever R. Kelly record to whatever. Yeah. I mean, that whole thing changed. The samples went away. The scratches disappeared. And it's like the DJ kind of disappeared from hip hop. And we were talking about, we were bringing up Ice Spice because we had enough on. And then we were just saying like what Ice Spice is doing with her producer, where they would team up, and like Rice has been doing all of her work, so they were developing a sound kind of together.
Sure.
And that DJ rapper kind of chemistry, where they were the only ones in the studio, and Premier was with Guru,
Right.
and they were in the studio and they were honing in a sound, and and creating a movement together. That started disappearing because all these producers were just producing for everybody.
Right.
And then I want to say like it was the most amazing album of all time, but I feel like it also kind of fucked things up a little bit. Was Illmatic.
Yeah, I mean,
because it was the first record where it was like, it was almost like kind of what LeBron did in the Miami Heat, right? Let me just get all the players in.
Stars. Yeah.
Let me get all the stars and put him on one team.
It was the gift and the curse.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was a gift and a curse.
Yeah.
Because from that, everyone wanted an Illmatic.
Right. Sure.
Oh, let me just get like one of Premier. Let me get one of Swiss. Let me get one of these things.
And that's also just while we're still on this topic, to many, Illmatic is, top of the food chain. Like,
Right.
You can't get better than that. But it didn't do anything. It didn't sell. You know what I'm saying? Like it didn't sell. And so when he made It Was Written and they drop If I Rule the World,
right,
and the record goes double platinum. And I hated that record. I couldn't stand that record because
But the album was good though.
Yeah,
But you just hated the single.
But even with the album being
Right.
good, I was so hurt from the first single, I couldn't even appreciate the album for the cuts that it had, like shootouts and
Yeah, they had good shit. Live Mother Rap, all that good shit.
Yeah.
So what happened was, and we both did Retail at the same time. And everybody has this kind of revisionist history that these records were the first albums and it was all over the place. Reasonable Doubt, how many did you guys? Nothing, right?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So nothing on Illmatic. Illmatic, to tell you the absolute truth, wasn't even available on vinyl.
Right.
For a very long time. Yeah. It was import only.
Right.
Here.
I have one of them.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So it was this misconception that everybody bought these albums when it first came out.
Right.
It's not true at all.
Right.
It's not.
The buzz is what
the buzz,
got out there. No,
word of mouth was everything. Yeah. But bootlegging was still out at that time. People was buying 2 for $3 or 5 for $10 on the streets, buying the tapes.
Yeah.
Right.
So you know what I mean? A lot of that shit didn't really sell. But commercially, it wasn't all about that. It was the integrity of the record.
Oh, of course.
But Illmatic, I feel like got sabotaged a little bit, right? Because they got bootleg so crazy.
Absolutely.
Like I feel like
that's why they rushed it out.
Yeah. I feel like that was one of the few albums that got just like fucking sabotaged and got fucking fucked over.
But it was because of the demand of why it leaked the way it did.
Sure.
Right.
We knew, you know what I'm saying? Like the streets knew it was incredible. You know what I'm saying? It was like, it was all we could talk about, and I mean, I remember the in-store he did at the Wiz, when the album dropped. It was like bedlam, you know what I'm saying? Like I've never seen, that was probably my first time seeing that many people gathered outside of a store to see the artist. You know what I'm saying? This is his first album just dropping. You know what I mean? So it was like, so you saw and you felt, you knew there was greatness there. You know what I'm saying? It's like, but we were, I was sad when it didn't do what it should have done. And so, Trackmasters and they polished it up and they made, they took Curtis Blow and took Friends and made it, it's like they just did what Puffy was doing. Like they took popular things to they took a formula that was already working and said, all right, let's just put a rhyme on it and put it back out there. And so to me it was just such a backwards movement from Illmatic. And so, it took me a long time before I could go back and appreciate the rest of the album cuts on there. Because
really?
Oh, absolutely. Wow. Absolutely.
There was a divide at that point. Yeah. It was kind of like Fat Beats, for lack of a better term, were the face of the kind of like backlash of everything commercial.
Right.
Right.
So it was a lot of stuff that at that time, like you guys were releasing your own records. Like you guys put out MF Doom by that point, 98.
Operation Doomsday, yeah.
That came out. They was putting out some really good hip-hop records, but because there was such a divide, a lot of the mainstream guys didn't even fuck with those records just on the strength that they had made that division.
Right.
So a record like MF Doom, where any real hip-hop would have really fucked with that record, it was kind of like, where am I play this shit at? You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
Am I going to be able to play this record in a mainstream setting, even though he had dope shit on that album?
Right.
You know what I mean?
It was was it also the beginning of when like hip hop? A lot of motherfuckers call it like jiggy rap, right? Jiggy.
No, that was the
hip-hop.
middle. That was
the
the
middle,
the
right?
peak of it.
The
That was
peak of it, yeah. But it was like, you needed a Trackmaster song, you needed a Hype Williams video.
Right.
Which is literally the recipe for Nas's If I Rule the World.
Sure.
It was a Hype Williams video.
Right.
And it was like, there was this, like you said, there was this divide, but there was the demand in the clubs for that music because hip hop was becoming dance music. It was just becoming more of a commercial thing for nightclubs, right? Was that the natural course where you had the motherfuckers who weren't going out, and then you had the motherfuckers who were going out, and then there was this like kind of demand for like, yo, we want this dancey hip hop.
Yeah, but at the same time, and what was so weird about that time
Because I was the one growing up and being like, yo, this is the shit we want to hear when we go out.
Right.
Like,
what was so weird about that time was that you had actual hits that came from the underground or quote unquote backpack of this. Like you had Mos Def come out in 98, 99.
Right.
You had Simon Says come out. You had really big records from underground.
only
Lord
certain-
Tariq and Peter Gunn.
Yeah, Lord Tariq and Peter Guns. That was an independent record.
Only certain ones would make it to that.
Right,
set,
but I'm just saying, it was like when they did, they were really big records.
big ones, yes.
But it was such a divide.
Because those records catered to everyone.
right.
Right.
You know.
But the thing is, their albums did well and as well as that. But it was such a divide that it was like the mainstream cats wouldn't go but so far to that area with the independent joints. Because it's like, where am I going to play this record at? Even though this record popped. What about the other ones? You know what I mean? So it was like at least 10 other ones that could have, like, fucking, like he was saying, Socrates. There was a lot of other really good joints.
Yeah, like Street Smarts.
Oh yeah,
I remember.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
It was also
fucking the East Flatbush Project, shit like
Right,
that.
yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
But you said it, best. Like it was the money and the glitz,
Yeah.
which really people like. I never would have thought Master P would have popped in New York. You know what I'm saying? But
Right.
the thing is like people see the videos first, and they see the money, and they see the cars, and they see all that, and they're buying into what he's selling.
Lifestyle
what I'm saying?
type shit.
They're buying into the lifestyle. So that was what was happening to everything commercial at the time. They were buying into, I want to be that. I want to live like that. And the stuff we were doing was straight up grassroots street stuff. So it was like, it didn't have...
Nobody wanted to be normal.
Yeah.
It was too close to reality. So everybody was like, oh, I want to do this.
It's the opposite of how hip hop started. Hip hop started with Furious 5 and everyone dressed up like all the R&B groups in these flashy outfits.
Right.
And then Run DMC came and said, we're wearing our street clothes, and took it back down. Hip hop went opposite.
Opposite.
It went down back to like, okay, we're gonna dress up, we're gonna have all this fly money, and it became. I mean, that's how it is now. It's like music to me now is about people's brand and image more than it is about their music.
Yeah.
It's like and so we were still stuck on music. We were still stuck on, it has to be dope. It has to be dope. And so it was us not liking the polished stuff, and it was them not liking broke people or no money people. You know what I'm saying? Who they looked at. I mean, that's where backpack kind of like that term. I remember clear as day Angie Martinez playing Reflection Eternal. What's the name of the Blast?
Yeah.
On Hot 97, and that's a dope song.
Yeah.
And after she plays it, she's like, "Yeah, shout out to Quality has some backpack rap for y'all." You know what I'm saying? It's like they were separating it as something different than what they were playing on the radio.
Yeah,
so it was a divide on both sides.
It was totally a divide.
It was a divide on both sides.
And the ill shit is that the backpack thing started just because like that kind of got popular from Black Moon. Black Moon had the big old joints in the video.
Pooh Bah too.
Yeah. Pooh Bah. Yeah.
But honestly, it was all of us. We all had a backpack because everyone did graph, and everyone had a black book. Everyone had a black book,
and then it just got to kind of, you know what I mean, like contorted.
But there was actually,
that's not to say that there wasn't whack people in the indie scene either.
Right.
No.
Because there was a lot, and I always joke with Manch about this because I blame Organized Confusion.
Really?
Because they were the epitome of lyrical. When Organized dropped, first album, second album, all those out, Equinox, those albums were so lyrical. They set the standard of like how dope an MC could get.
Right.
And so everyone on the indie scene was trying to mimic that, and it became a joke almost, like where it's like, my metaphysical
Miracle.
and so it became this thing where it was like it just wasn't everyday language to a lot of people,
Right.
And so I think that also gave us a stigma of like, what I'm saying, like it was something that people couldn't really relate to,
Yeah. But that was the uniform for hip hop in New York to me, was just the backpack. Everyone had a JanSport.
Absolutely.
Everyone had something in their bag that they couldn't carry. You know what I'm saying? You had a box cutter, or you had like, like you had markers, you had spray paints, you had something in there. A little baseball bat or something that you were carrying around.
Big ass phones, pockets back there.
You just had a bunch of shit in there. You always had, like it was just a part of the uniform. But you're right, like there was a divide towards the late '90s and 2000s, and I think Raucous is also responsible for that, where you had like, but there was some music surviving, like you said, like Reflection Eternal, Slum Village, right? Mm-hmm. It was kind of coexisting, but there was starting to be a separation during that time. So was there kind of like, were you into the music, or you kept DJing?
At that point, yeah, like he was saying.
Were you guys kind of like having conflicting opinions on shit?
I don't think we had conflicting opinions. It was just at that time I started doing a lot more gigs, a lot more traveling.
Yeah. Because you went to 103.5 KTU, which is like a dance, the most commercial dance station in New York.
I remember the night we did shout out to my man Moody and Chris Moody and Scribble, because Scribble had a show with Moody. Moody and Scribble had a show on there, and it was mostly dance oriented, house stuff. But we went up there one time, brought the turntables up, and actually did a live show. And we were cutting, we were playing classics, things they never heard before. Before you know it, these guys offering me a show there, and I'm like, all right, what kind of show can I do? And it wound up just becoming a mashup. I mean, I would play freestyle. I would play hip hop. I would play house. I play everything, but it was all mashed up in that way where it was different than anything that was on the air.
Right.
So it was only like a half-hour mix show, but it lasted, maybe 2 years, and then, program directors leave and everything goes. But yeah, that was the basis of that.
But you were kind of always blowing motherfuckers away. Like you would do like those Mixmaster shows on Hot 97, and everyone would be like, "Yo, what the fuck was that? Who was that?" Mm-hmm. And no one knew. Like they didn't even know you were like a white DJ. They didn't know who the fuck you were. Like, yo, who? Everyone, I remember there was like call-ins. Motherfuckers be like, "Yo, who was that? That motherfucker killed it. Who's Riz?" And
shout out to Flex. Yeah, he
Flex
used to
would put you on.
Yes, DJs, man, and I would always go up there prepared, man. Like I couldn't. I thought that was a time where you could represent what you do.
Right.
Your name is your name, right?
And that's it. Whether it fit the format or not, it was a mix show. But they didn't tell me like, you can't do this, you can't do that. They just let me do what I did. So it worked out.
It was crazy. Goldie, you were telling me about your mix show too. You were killing that shit.
I almost got the hook on my mix show.
What
I was playing, and I was playing like, pretty much playing everything.
You on Hot 97, right?
Yeah, Hot 97 Mixmaster Weekend. And the Red Line calls, Tracy calls Fat Man Scoop.
Who's Tracy?
Tracy was the program director. She got us up there to do a Memorial Weekend joint, whatever. And she was like, "What is he playing? What is he playing?" And I'm playing like Michael Jackson at some point on there. And he was like, "Yo, he's killing it." She was like, no. And she's like, yo, he's like, relax. He's doing good. The phone's lighting up. He was like, they saying it's refreshing.
Yes.
So it's just like you gotta stand on your business,
Yeah, that was the difference. That was what we used to look forward to.
Yeah,
the Mix Master Weekend.
And the cookies. It's like, oh shit, he played like he got in his bag. He threw a Mickey on. Like, who plays that?
Right.
And he actually played it. That was what you look forward to for New York radio.
Right.
It's always about diversity. I don't know where it came from, where you had to play everything like everybody else.
Right.
Nah, I'm going in there. I'm gonna do me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And it's like, I remember like setting the tone for the Mixmaster weekends. It'd be like, the 3-day weekends, the holiday weekends, usually during the summer and shit.
Yeah.
Right.
We, like, motherfuckers be having barbecues. I remember we have a barbecue and we'd be on Hot 97 and it'd be a group of us just listening to everyone,
different
like,
styles.
throw down for every...
Sure.
And it's supposed to be different styles.
That was the beauty of it.
You got to do
beauty, yeah.
But it was the soundtrack to literally everyone's barbecue or like what they were doing. And we were just like, and then we'd be listening like, oh shit, this motherfucker's going in. And like, yo, I've never heard this shit before.
I mean, think about it. Would it be dope if everyone had to play the same, songs?
Right.
Like, I mean, you deliver it different, but still, it's It's not refreshing, man.
Yeah. So around the 2000s, you're juggling Las Vegas. You're like doing some spots in New York. You're coming to Vegas. You're doing Pure, and then I'm noticing that Fat Beats is opening on the West Coast, right?
Yeah.
It's like Fat Beats opened in L.A.
Well, it all happened at around the same 96.
96.
But locations moved over the
Moved
years.
over.
Yeah.
Okay.
Amsterdam too came the same time.
How many
Amsterdam.
locations were there?
We had L.A., New York, Atlanta, Amsterdam.
Oh shit.
And we had we licensed the name to a store in Tokyo for a year.
Oh wow!
But they didn't run it how we thought our Fat Beat store should be run. They focused more on mainstream commercial stuff, and it was like it just didn't fit our brand. So we didn't renew that. But so mainly it was Amsterdam, L.A., New York, and Atlanta was maybe a few years. We tried to get popping down there, but it was hard in the South. So
Yeah.
All the while they're doing all the culture shit. So it's like the New York store is just a reflection of every other store that they got. So
right.
the videotapes, the X-Men shit, all that stuff is spreading. So this is like pushing the culture forward because they're actually pushing the culture forward.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Cricket, when I mentioned in the early 2000s that the LA didn't have no hip hop, the hip hop we had was battle rap, and it was Grind Time, and it was King of the Dot came later and all this stuff. But the only place to get like these MCs like projects and shit was Fat Beats, like SoulCon stuff, Bender stuff, and these guys were just being promoted across the board. But that was the hip hop we had. Of course, it's not commercialized, it's not being played on the radio. But these guys dumbfounded. There's so many other battle rappers.
There's this whole LA scene.
But it all comes and it kind of lives in either in the south of LA, which is where the battle rap.
Yeah, because what battle rap was big. I mean,
It was
New York
huge
has
in
battle
LA.
rap, but it was a different form of it in LA, right?
Yeah, it was different. But then when Fat Beats you could get the DVDs and all this stuff, and like you could see like Dumbfounded, like it was the hub of it.
That's where I got all the DMC videos.
Yeah.
I got
And
everything.
then the
from
battle
Fat Beats.
DJs.
Yeah,
You talking about the battle MCs, the
and then
battle DJs.
LA didn't really have
Super disco breaks and all that.
All
the
the
booger breaks,
staples.
all that.
All staples of what we needed, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They were all things that helped us grow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, so it was just like carrying on that for the next generation of people. And just to put it out there, we love and care about the core essence of the culture and the music that comes out of it. That's not to say that we never carried, we hated commercial music. It's like, I might not have liked certain things, but but we carried all the commercial stuff as well. We were there to sell to DJs. You know what I'm saying? They come in, we give them, and if they bought a bunch of that stuff, we would try to sell them some stuff that was indie that might work with what they were playing as well, like the Lord Tariq and Peter Guns before it became signed on Major.
Right.
Yep.
We're like, yo, check this out too. So we were just trying to cover the spectrum of what we felt needed to be heard, but also what you needed to have.
How did you know when it was time to pull the trigger to open different locations and like kind of expand?
Just because we felt the business booming, you know what I'm saying? It's like we knew, the New York location moved from in 94 to, it started in 94. In 96, we moved to what most people know as the Fat Beats location on 8th Street above the Bagel Buffet. So that happened then, and then like a month or two later was LA and was Amsterdam and was Fat Beats Distribution, all within months of each other, because that 1 year of from 95 to 96 it just boomed. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, again, like music was more together, you know what I'm saying? It's like, that's one thing I always say, it's like it's like we're an exception to the rule, everyone in this room, because we're diehard music nerds, you know what I'm saying? Like we care about everything. The average person that just turns on the radio when they get in their car or to go to work or whatever, they only know what they're being given or what they're so they don't know all the intricacies of what's going on. We always wanted to push the effort of like, you need to know about all this stuff.
It's a specialty store.
Absolutely.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolute specialty store. So the niche of bringing it and having that from New York, and you're bringing the experience to all these different places.
Absolutely.
Was
And
the
people, it just spread like wildfire. And again, the music that was coming out back then was this. It was the same everywhere. You know what I'm saying? It's like the music that was coming out. If you look at the pictures from Fat Beats of the records that are on the wall, Group Home, Mike Geronimo, you know, these were all records that were either on Majors Direct or like indies through Majors.
Yep.
And it was all the stuff that was coming out, and it was everyone around the world had those same releases at the same time. You know what I'm saying? As of now, my point I was trying to get to is that, you know, now it's so splintered that, like, you know, I couldn't tell you one commercial record that's coming out this Friday,
right.
you know, but I can tell you, you know, if Tribe decided to drop an album this Friday, I'd still, you know, it's like there's this, everyone's not on the same page anymore as far as like what's coming out musically and stuff like that. And it was just so much better and easier back then to have focus. And also why I think, you know, music stayed around a lot longer. You know, artists were dropping an album every, you know, maybe
wasn't as disposable.
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't. Now artists putting out records, you know, like 3-4 times a year sometimes, you know. It's like,
it's interesting though, like nowadays, probably in the past 5 or so years, like the underground rap scene, I don't even know what to really call it, like the Griseldas, like the
I don't know what to categorize it, but
like, sure. Are you guys feeling a lot more of this music, and even some of like the songs that Nas, the new albums that Nas is dropping.
Yeah. I mean,
like,
that's all.
But it's all like kind of coming back a little because they, you know, we all went through this era of like the EDM era, and then the music was like, I feel like we always talk about this word. New York had almost little to no representation in hip hop for a while.
Yep.
Yeah.
When the Griselda came back out, they really reminded people of what we lost and what we loved. You know what I'm saying? Because honestly, I don't feel that they were doing anything new. They were just doing something that no one else was doing at that time.
Exactly.
You know, everyone else had given up on it. You know what I'm saying? Right. But like when I listen to Griselda joints, they reminded me of like Wu album cuts.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Very
it's just dope beats and rhymes type of stuff.
But there was always artists like that for a long time, but people just didn't realize, like Action Bronson, like Earl Sweatshirt, like these guys been around for a minute. Even Mac Miller, kind of his earlier projects, very backpacky, boom bat shit, but people were so stuck on the EDM, the Drake shit happening.
Right.
And the commercial.
Yeah, and the commercialize of it. But if you really look for it, it was there. Like Action Bronson was there.
Always is. It's always, it's just a matter of where you look. But those guys helped bring more attention back to it. And now they're the kings of the scene, you know, the independent underground scene. And so there's so many now people coming out that want to sound like that. Right. You know what I'm saying? And so it's gift and the curse again. You know,
was that like what do you think is the most frustrating like period for you, like musically?
I'd say that when Riz left, you know, the early 2000s to me was probably the hardest period to get through.
Really? Mm-hmm. So interesting. It was not even the invasion of like South music. It was just like the abandonment
that was
of New
the
York.
South kind of take over that time.
I don't remember the exact time frame for the South one. I look at that whole decade. If
he says 50 Cent was the last, then the crunk era came, the snap era came.
Right.
So that's that South.
But even when like groups like Dipset and Cam, they would say like they're adopting the South sound.
Sure. Yeah, like a lot of that Heatmaker stuff was it was, you know, I mean some of it was, I mean it was still dope, but like it was just when people say like boom bap and they make it sound like it's a throwback old thing, it's a sound. It's a New York sound. It's a New York sound. It's not a 90s sound. It's a New York sound.
Yeah.
It just was done best in the 90s.
Absolutely.
Quote unquote.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
That was at the pinnacle of it.
That was the pinnacle.
But like, you know, the way the South has it, when you hear a slow, trappy type beat, it sounds like a Southern beat.
Right.
You know, so when you hear a boom bap beat, it's not an old sounding beat. It's a New York sounding beat. It's like gritty. It's grimy. That's how we like our stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's
like Chopped and Screwed is Texas and boom bap is
you know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, so with everything that's coming out now, I mean, there's no shortage on good music. That's absolutely for sure. I mean,
well, your show's still going on. So it's definitely not a shortage.
I go through music. I try to go through music every week, but
I hate him on Mondays, by the way.
I sent him a folder on Monday. The last folder I sent him had like 243 new songs in it.
Jesus.
And those are ones I already filtered out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, so now, you know, we're straight for a while. I don't have to rush next week to go through. But if I was to, I could send him another 240 the next week. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's that much music coming out and there's that much good stuff. But good stuff is good. Great is something else.
Right.
And that's why I try to tell artists, it's like, you only have to be good to get on our show because we're not looking for the next Nas or the next Eminem or the next Jay-Z. We're just looking for good shit we can play that we like, you know what I'm saying? And I'm simple. I just like dope beats, dope rhymes, whatever. But as an artist, if you're looking to become bigger, you need to take all these other things into consideration. You know what I'm saying? It's like I always tell people, like, you know, when you go to sports games, when you look at movies and you see what songs are being played, how much of that stuff is new music in there, or how much of it is still House of Pain, Jump Around, Raw Bass, It Takes Two, Naughty by Nature, Hip Hop R.O.A.D.
You're right.
Those are staples in classics that are bigger than even the music. You know what I'm saying? It's like I mean, you hear Gangstar instrumentals on all the sports shows.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like
Insane in the Membrane and fucking Disney movies.
That tells you, you know, Sound of the Police in Disney movies. You know what I'm saying? It's like those are hits for those artists, and it's like what are going to be the hits for these artists today? They need to think about that's going to separate them from everyone else making Griselda sounding music. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, you know, so everyone needs to step their game up to become bigger artists. And, you know, I definitely think we could also use more variety. I miss more Little Brother sounding records, you know what I'm saying? Soulful, Ninth Wonder type stuff. You know, there's some here and there, but nowhere near as much as just a straight up, like, you know, 78 BPMs drug rap. You know what I'm saying?
I miss some of the drum. I talked with Scram. I wish he was here. I miss some of the drums in some of the
absolutely,
kind of the hip hop now, because it's all just like loop samples.
Melodies.
Yeah, it's just like loop samples.
Yep.
It's like the beginning of like.
And as a DJ, it's like we need drums. You know what I'm saying?
It's like it's like you hit one of the stems button on the mixer. Like, yo, where's the beat?
Yeah, I was telling him it's like you're waiting for something to come in, like for them to be like, you know, like to bring the energy up, and then nothing ever. And then it just never happens. Yeah.
Another thing is when you hear the music on regular radio, it's different with their program because they're actually cutting. You actually hear them get busy, and then it's not a lost art, but it's lost radio wise.
Sure,
where you hearing, you know, slap it up a little, you know, heat it up a little something. On these records, there's a different approach. It's a whole different type of chakra that's getting hit when a motherfucker's hitting it up, you know, on a record. You know?
Sure. And that's us. That's you know, again, we're not here just to give you music. We're here to give you us.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like we have to put our stamp on it to let you know, like, yo, like, you know, and that's when you hear us, you're hearing, you know, Red, Marley, you know, Awesome 2, you know, you're hearing all those Stretch and Bob because that's who we all grew up on. Influences,
major influences.
The Rap Is Out of Control, like that show you guys started, right? It's been over 10 years. When did you guys, like, when did it start? 2012-ish?
No, it was earlier than that. I started it, it's been about 15 years now.
15 years.
Yeah. I started filling in for Premier on Live from Headquarters,
right?
On Shade. Well, actually, it was on Hip Hop Nation at the time.
I mean, I know y'all relationship. Y'all are like really tight with Premier. Y'all, Riz, I know, like you guys are basically.
That's family.
Salt of the earth, right there, Preem.
Yeah.
So I was filling in for him, and you know, and it's like I remember the day he hit me up and was like, "Yo," he's like, you know, I'm not gonna be here. I gotta go out of town, and you know, I really can't think of anyone that can hold my show down for what I play like you can. And so you know, big head at that point. I'm like, it makes me feel good. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, so that someone recognizes what we do because we're always looked at as the small guys. You know what I'm saying?
Really?
So yeah, absolutely. I'm not you know, confused about where we stand in the world.
But explain that a little bit, like the small guys.
We're the small guy in terms of popularity. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, we're not playing the stuff that the mainstream people are catering to. We're playing for a smaller, you know what I'm
demographic.
saying? Right. You know, so we're playing, you know, we're not playing for the 85%, you know what I mean? So
have you felt that throughout like the decades?
More so as the decades have gone on because
the
music has gotten more divided, you know what I'm saying? So you know, but because of that, you know, when someone acknowledges what you do, it's refreshing, you know, because I know I'm doing a good job. I know he's doing a good job. So it's good when someone else recognizes it, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so when he was like, yo, you know, fill in, and then it just became another fill in, same thing I was doing for Stretch on KCR.
Right.
And so then that led to me being offered my own show up there, which was Rap Is Out of Control. And
you were still doing halftime at the same time.
I was still doing
right?
halftime at the same time. I was doing both shows for several years at the same time. And then halftime ended. And I just kept going with the Rappers Out of Control, and so it wasn't up until 6 years ago, 7.
2017, around there.
Okay, but yeah, about 7 years ago that he came to me and was just like, "Yo, he has the itch to get back on doing radio."
Music was good again.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was feeling himself, so he's like, "Yo," he's like, would you want to start a new show with me?" And I was like, "I ain't starting a new show." I was like, "Just come on and do Rappers Out of Control with me."
Yeah.
And so that was it. So I was like, I just brought him on board, and I'll let him. We do it exactly how we used to do it. I give him the first hour, and I do the second hour.
I didn't say I wanted to start a show.
I
said I wanted to join you.
No, you didn't. Maybe you were scared to ask me, but you were like, "Yo, would you want to start a new show or something, or whatever, And I was like, "Nah." I was like, "Just come do the show with me."
All right, whatever. It worked out.
Yeah.
What got you like wanted to get back on?
I think
girls.
Well, I missed him yelling at me. The music was better.
Like, what was it? What was the like? Name a couple songs or artists.
No, don't even ask him that.
Nah.
Let me tell you something.
Oh no, don't say that.
The first few shows, this guy's back on air with me. And mind you, I'm telling him, I'm like, I know you've been out of the loop. I was like, so I'm gonna send you music. Pick from this music. He wants to go off on his own and pick his own songs to throw in the mix. And I'm like, yo, why are you playing that song? It's 10 years old, Riz. He starts for like several weeks in a row.
It was twice, I think.
It was twice. At least 2 or 3 times. Playing music that was like 10 years old. I'm like, yo, that's not a new record. He's like, it's not? I was like, no. I was like, please just stick to the music I'm sending you.
I was out of loop. We tightened the ship, though. It's good.
Yeah.
So with this folder that you get, do you send it out to other DJs? Like, how do you spread the gospel besides having the radio show?
I mean, besides the fact that you guys post on Mixcloud every week, right?
DJs. I don't make it publicly known, but now it is.
Oh, my bad.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't want people hitting me up.
Okay.
Like,
No,
I send it to about. Now it's probably about 30 DJs that I send it to,
but like-minded.
Like-minded, absolutely. Like-minded people that have paid their dues. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like the amount of time and effort I put into going through this music and curating and filtering it and all that.
Oh, that's
it's not to be given out. You know what I'm saying?
Why not? Why wouldn't you make it available for everyone?
Because because first off, 90% of the people I feel probably don't deserve to earn my blood, sweat, and tears. All right. The same way I still feel like that about Serato and stuff like that. Like I feel that like I think Serato is a retirement package for DJs that have been here. You know what I'm saying? Yes, absolutely.
He's right.
Because it's
dues
easy.
paid.
It's easy. It's easy to DJ.
Yeah.
Okay. So I understand if you came up in that era where you weren't exposed to doing stuff before that. I get that. I understand that. But it makes DJing so easy. Going back to his quick mix set.
Yeah.
Not everyone can do that. It's like me giving you a calculator, but you don't know how to fucking do math. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's not
but
fair.
that's the generation now.
But I don't care. It don't make it right, and I don't have to like it.
I know.
You know what I'm saying? So,
but I think it'll be great. Like I feel like if you made that list available monthly,
the list is on. You can see the list. You can see what I play. You want to see what I play? You can see what I play.
But that's what because you post it like you post your shows on Mixcloud.
Sure.
So like there's a dope catalog of all your shows.
You can hear the songs.
Yeah.
We play the songs. We post the playlist. Let me tell you something else too. And I'm not gonna say I'm the first to do this or anything like that, but I don't recall people doing this. When people were doing mixtapes, and you can back me up, they wouldn't list anything except the artist, the song title, and if the producer was maybe the biggest producer, they'd put like produced by Premier or something like that. That was it. You weren't getting that producer credit on every song on the track list. Mm-hmm. When I started doing the playlist for the radio show, because of the fact that physical product was pretty much gone at that time, I was like, I want to put all the information I can find for the song. So I would list obviously the main artist, the features, all the features, the song title. I'd list the producer and I'd list the DJ if there was scratches on the record. No one was listing that stuff on playlists. So it's like I was putting that stuff down there, and I've had people come to me and be like, yo, it's like it's dope. I like how you do it because I can see who did the scratches on the it's like because to me it's like our playlists are like album credits. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So and that's the only way we have.
You don't get that anymore.
You don't get that, and that's the thing.
Yeah,
I'm searching for that information So when I'm sending out these 240 songs, before I have to filter the music first, then go back and start from square one and ID every single track, because not all the information is accurate in all the tracks. So I have to go back and get the artists, the song titles, the producers, find out who the DJs were in the song. So I'm doing all that. So why am I just giving that to the world every week for free? Nah, get out of here. I'm giving that to the people that I know care about it as much as I care about it.
It's funny because it still has like a hip hop factor, because if you really want it, you'll go search for it and you go find it and dig through it.
You have all the information. You gotta do the knowledge
you gotta
yourself.
go do your knowledge.
You know what I mean?
You gotta go search for it.
do the knowledge yourself.
I respect that.
Yeah, so it's like, I mean,
I like Riz's face. He's like, you see what I gotta do?
But I'm saying that it's work. I'm working.
You hear that, Riz? You hear the work he's putting in?
I know
Like,
the
you know
work
what I'm
he's
saying?
putting in.
I understand where he's coming from, but I don't necessarily agree with the Serato thing, because I was born in '89, and by the time I was 15, Serato was out. So there's no real way of me carrying records and carrying stuff. My pay dues was carrying other people's speakers and equipment and stuff like that, putting your dues in
But he's basically saying like it's not your choice, but y'all got it real easy. So,
Right.
like,
No, of
And
course.
that's what I'm saying.
Well,
I
it's different.
understand you didn't
but
have
it's a
it.
lot of things now.
I understand you didn't have it, but I'm more comfortable with it now, obviously. But it was, what do you call it?
So you hated
Like the
Serato.
floodgates open and you're like,
You hated the idea of Serato.
Oh, absolutely. Because before that was what? Final Scratch, right? Final Scratch was first.
Final Scratch.
CDJs.
Final Scratch was, CDJs. CDJs, I had one because that was the only way you could actually
Get some of the records.
get
it was easier
or
to play
scratch
music.
something that wasn't on vinyl.
Yeah.
So it was more for like studio use, stuff like that. But when Final Scratch came out, I was like, I remember Triple Threat DJs had SOBs, and I was like, that's ungodly. I was like, that shouldn't be allowed to happen. And then by the time Serato came around, and then Ems, you, Jeff, I see a bunch of these people that had it, and I was like, okay, now I'm starting to understand more how it can benefit us for certain things that we don't have on vinyl and stuff like that. And that was, and especially for us for the radio show, because, well, maybe not you weren't here, but the radio show, I was still having to stop the music to play a CD or DAT within the show to play an exclusive.
Yep.
So now with Serato, I just load all my exclusives. As a matter of fact, I was only using Serato in the beginning for exclusives. So I was still DJing the radio show with vinyl and then mixing in the exclusives on the Serato so that the show would stay, solid. So for me, it was always about, it's too easy for people to get on now. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, and so that's why to me it was like it's a retirement package. It's like, you deserve it. Here, this is.
was a celebrity DJing thing kind of threw you over the edge as well? Because now it's celebrities are DJing because they had a laptop and that's somebody else's library. And you're like, well, they didn't fucking carry no crates.
I think it's just more effort than anything.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Just more effort.
Because because most people, it's just like they don't. It's the person that makes the Serato. Okay, it's the person that makes them the DJ name. It doesn't. It's like it's. I don't necessarily care. If I see you DJ and I talk to you and I hang out with you and I see that you're official, you know what you're talking about. Like me and him will have. I'm not as good as him, but I can talk as good as him.
Nobody is.
I can think as good as him. Funny story. When we talk about wordplay and stuff like that, he played a set at Don Hill's one night.
Don Hill's great.
He played MOP. How about some hardcore? And I don't remember the record he went into after that.
Shimmy, yo.
No, shut up. You're ruining the story. So he played another record after that, right? And it was a cool record, but the transition really didn't make a difference. It was just he just only used the MOP for the chorus and then went to something else.
Yeah.
It didn't necessarily talk to each other. He just did it. I'm thinking about that record though, and I'm like, yo, you know what would be dope if he did How About Some Hardcore into ODB. Oh Baby, I Like It Raw.
Right.
I see him, the next time I see him, I'm talking to him and I'm telling him, I was like, yo, you remember when you did that record? I was like, I got a better idea for you. He cuts me off and says, shimmy, shimmy, ya. I was like, yes.
Yeah.
I was like, absolutely. So we were thinking the same thing, but he did something different the first time. You know what I'm saying? It's like, but by the time I could get back to talk to him, but that's what I'm saying. It's like, that level of thinking of just always trying to come up with something that's going to be impressive, even if it's only to us.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because the average person,
which it usually is, right?
Which it usually is.
Room full of DJs. Oh,
Yeah,
wow, that was
it's just
dope.
like, you know,
Everyone else is like, what are you doing?
that's what I appreciate in all the DJs I look up to. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, is what's there. And again, I don't like best, top 5s, top 10s, because it's not true for everyone we love. I love this dude. You know what I'm saying? I love what he's done from a retail aspect, from a party aspect, all that stuff. That doesn't make him better or worse than Premier.
Right.
Premier is great as a DJ, you know, and with his cuts on records and his production. He might not be as technically as good as Scratch, but that doesn't take away from what Premier does.
Everyone's got their
Everyone
style,
has
man.
what they contribute to this thing and makes them important.
Right.
And that's what I want all of us to do, is just leave something behind that makes us important for what our part is. You know what I'm saying? So,
I think also, like, what you got to understand, when Scratch Live first came on, and you know, we were working on building our library. We were transferring vinyl to MP3s.
You told me that.
But it was the first time people would come up to us and be like, "Yo, how much you want for your library?"
yeah, absolutely.
And they, you know, like these corny
Now,
motherfuckers.
would you give that to everyone? Would you give that
No,
away
like,
for free?
even my boys-
Would you give that away even to
Nah.
your boys?
It's the same-
Oh,
it's the same
thing I'm
situation.
saying about the
Same
music.
situation.
It's
I'm
like my-
spending
yeah,
time
exactly, yeah.
it's effort.
But it was also so new. It was like it was insulting.
Yeah,
it was
insulting.
it
like,
was-
you coming to your house and be like,
course.
yo, give me your shit.
I remember like
Absolutely.
Mel DeBarge was like, you know, he's obviously an insane producer,
Yeah,
great
yeah,
DJ, but in the beginning, like when he was a bar back, he was a busboy, he was like, you know, grinding. He was running with Cassidy. He was Cassidy's road manager and also carrying his crates. But he would come to me and during his he's like, yo, I'm gonna start, you know, I want to get a laptop. Like, you gonna give me a library? I was like, nah. I was like, yo, you gotta earn that shit. I'm like,
that's what I'm all
I
about.
told
It's
him,
about earning.
I told him, I was like, yo, do a couple gigs, carry a couple of your own crates to the gigs, and then I'll give you my library.
Yeah, you gotta put in some work.
But then he got his library, and he said, he said, like, he got the library and he started doing gigs on the laptop. I'm like, oh shit, where'd you get the library? He's like, yeah, I asked Cassidy. He just gave it to me.
I'm gonna tell you.
He's like, you an asshole. You didn't want to give Cassidy. Just gave me. His
But he
whole
put his
shit.
dues in with him, so I mean, he got an easy pass.
And I'm so stubborn that I've had DJs offer me their folders, whatever, their drives, and I'm like, you know, thanks. Good to know that's there if I need it. But I enjoy
The hunt.
building my own library. You know what I'm saying?
It's a connection. When
It
you
is.
Go, when
It's
you
like
go
going to
record
the
shopping,
store. Yeah.
it's still records that I have in my house where I remember the smell, I remember the store.
Sure.
I remember the records.
Yeah.
Never
You know what I
used
mean?
to tell
Buy
me
it.
that shit. Never used to be like, I was like, yo, where did you buy this? Oh, I bought this so and so. And I'm like, oh, this is like your baby. Like, this is like, this is a very relationship, you know, you have going on with the, it's not just like, oh, it's a song. It's a record.
It's not disposable.
Yeah, it's not
at all.
disposable.
But it's like, you know, I
Memory
like,
to it.
you know, I'm only in the last several years transferring over my vinyl to digital.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm limited on what I have in there, you know what I'm saying? But I like that. I like knowing that those are my songs. Those are my songs. I bought those, you know what I'm saying? It's like they weren't given to me by someone. It's like, and every time I rip more records, I'm like a kid again. I'm like, yo, I'm like going to the store for the first time, buying it again, and now I'm digitizing it. And then, you know, even with the digitizing, it's like, you know, going through steps of cleaning it up and editing it, and like, you know, I've taken stuff like PSK and put it on beat, and you know, like, and because I'm like, you know, it's like I'm trying to fix things the way from where they were. I'm building my library all over again, and so it's satisfying. And then once the song's done, I put it into the folder and then it goes to my computer, and it's and I enjoy that. You know, it's like I know what I have in there. If you gave me a folder, I don't know what the hell I have in there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's difficult because like even like MoMA, like DJ MoMA, like he, you know, master like fucking DJ.
Yeah.
He has his crates are so deep for Amapiano and Afro beats. You know, he'll create these folders and be like, he'll send it to the homies like, yo, these are the new Afrobeat Amapiano songs popping. You know, and it'll be like, you know, altogether 40 to 50 songs. But it'll take me months to kind of go through it and learn it and really kind of listen to it.
There's
because
no experience attached to it.
there's nothing.
No experience
If I'm
attached
just
to it.
looking at like 50 or 80 songs blindly, I'm just kind of like, woof. But it's different. I'd rather almost go out and be like, oh my God, this sounds great. And I see the crowd reaction. And now I have a connection to that song. And that melody stuck in my head, and I'm gonna love that song way more than if I just heard it.
Right.
You know, there's like an experience. There's a story to every song that you hear.
And it's also a different avenue that we both have. You know what I'm saying? It's like I took those songs from Riz for my for the wedding because I need to cover that wedding. You know, I'm doing a wedding. It's like if you're in a club, you're not playing what I'm playing. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're playing what you need to play for the club. Right. So it's also a different, getting, a handful of songs these are new hot things that can get you through, blah, blah, blah. I kind of get that, you know what I'm saying? But like, if I'm DJing somewhere, I'm really giving you my take on music. I'm not giving you the popular stuff that, people are going to the club to hear.
Right.
So it's also, it's a totally different dynamic.
Almost like an identity, kind of like you giving somebody your ID or your credit card.
Sure,
or some shit.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So.
With where you guys are right now, like with the radio show and everything, and you guys look back on your careers and like everything you've contributed to hip hop and like to the culture itself. Mm-hmm. Like what are some of the highlights that when you think about it, and then. Is there anything when you think about where you kind of like, I know it's hard to do this, like, but I try to do this, recently with Never Passing. I look at kind of his like legacy. I look like at what he did. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I sometimes when we're living it, we don't realize how amazing and impactful it was.
We don't, and other people don't either. That's what I'm saying.
Right. But do you ever kind of look back and there's pivotal moments or key experiences that when you look back, you're like, wow, this was insane. I can't believe I was a part of that shit,
In everything, I think, the radio, the clubs, the producing, there's so many different avenues that tied into one where, sometimes you'll get reminded whether you're at a club or you hear it on the radio or you're actually DJing, it's, sometimes it takes you back to a time where like, damn, I was a part of that era and, I contributed and, we played stuff on the radio, we played the clubs. It all comes full circle even to this day. And it just makes you feel good about that era or whatever era you're talking about, so even today, just going to do the radio show, we're still doing it. So, I mean, we'll look back, 20 more years, God willing, and say like, yo, that was dope, man. It was just a dope time in hip hop.
What are you most proud of when you look back, Riz?
Eclipse.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Eclipse.
Happy birthday.
Good looking.
Happy birthday.
I just, man.
It really is hard to.
It's hard, yeah.
It's hard to pick one thing. I mean, when I was, a kid, I started buying records when I was 9, started DJing when I was 14. And all I wanted to do at that point was be one of the people I was listening to. You know what I'm saying? That's all I wanted to do. It wasn't about money. It wasn't about anything. I just wanted to be part of what they were doing. I wanted them to know who I was. I wanted to contribute the same way they were, the same way they were making me feel. I wanted to do something that, so I accomplished that and then some, you know what I'm saying? Where it's just like, a lot of my friends are artists I grew up listening to, so
that's the amazing part. Like still to this day,
absolutely.
like
being a fan,
and they know you,
having it,
like,
absolutely.
Damn,
still
saying what's
still
up to
a fan.
Red Alert, right?
Still a fan.
Fucking seeing Red Alert, drinking
always a
fucking
fan,
juice.
but like
you know what I mean? Like how crazy that is.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, but then along the way, just looking back and knowing again, like there's not any one thing, but radio, retail. Rocksteady, the anniversaries every year we put on, Fat Beats with the, we did monthly parties at SOBs for a while, playing at Tramps, you know what I'm saying? Like, both me and Riz were like resident DJs at like most of those Tramp shows.
Yeah, those are great. Yeah.
Wait, let's talk about a couple of things because let's talk about Tramps since you're bringing that up. What was that? Like, I don't recall that. Like, I don't really know much about this era, but Tramps was like, it was a club obviously, and it was like the first place for kind of like under
venues.
It was like 1,000 capacity venue, which was
21st Street.
Yeah, 21st Street and 6th Ave. Yeah. It was like right around the corner from Limelight.
Okay.
And it was the only place of that size that we had to do that kind of events because like we had SOBs, which is like 350, 400 capacity. There was other places, and then there was other clubs that were primarily DJ spots, Club Vinyl, and a ton of other spots that would occasionally have some shows. But Tramps became the spot to go to just for shows, and it was probably between like 98 and 99, I think, was when they had the run of doing all those shows, and it would be like Outkast, Eminem, Run DMC, Tribe Called Quest, Rakim. You know, it was
And
all
Tramps
these,
was kind of like left the center, so they had
Yeah.
like a niche about a quality that was a little bit different, mainstream, but it was quality shit.
Yeah.
Like they had D'Angelo there, they had
Quality
like
stuff,
all these different acts that was there.
Sure.
It was a very special place. Very special.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And that's what I was saying, where, you know, the guys that were throwing the shows, Peter Oasis and Zvi, they were curating them to, you know, have the groups they loved as the headliners, but also have groups they loved as the openers, which was all the independent scenes. You know, so Nonfiction, you know, Natural Elements, Arsonists, you know, Dilated Peoples,
Company
Jurassic
Flow.
5, Company Flow. Like these were all groups, you know, that opened up, you know, a lot of these shows, and more than just Shabam Sadiq. You know, there was a ton of groups that were getting put on in front of this many people that we might not normally have had.
And tastemakers.
Yeah,
'Cause that was a
absolutely.
tastemaker
Yeah.
spot.
And all those shows were banging. They were all banging. You know what I'm saying? It's
Tribe did their last show there. Well, not their last.
Right, yeah, but it was-
They what was the Love Moment? They
Yeah,
they
yeah,
ended
yeah.
off
Love
there.
Moment.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
like one of their last shows there.
so many just dope shows and sets, and it was just like, you know, again, it's like it was one of those things where it was a movement going on at the time,
Right.
You know, and so we were all connected. You know, what
It
I'm saying?
sounds like it's almost like maybe the last real New York venue before like 9/11 and everything changed with the bottle service and nightlife, right?
Yeah. The
Almost.
Yeah, I'm trying to think where else were they doing shows like I mean like SOBs was
But
always
SOBs
like,
was maybe
yeah,
the
that
next
was
one.
it.
again,
right?
it's a smaller spot, you know,
Right.
and they were there from way before, obviously.
Right.
Yeah.
But you know, that was always kind of like, you know, the mainstay as well. But Tramps was like just a
That
bigger
was-
spot and doing, you know, and they could do bigger shows because they were a bigger
Highline
spot.
Ballroom.
Highline Ballroom was
yeah,
doing
that's
some
right.
dope ones.
Highline,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know,
Or
but that was
Urban
that was a little
Plaza.
later, you know.
Yeah, a little bit later. Yeah.
Yeah. Urban Plaza was
Urban
around
Plaza.
too, though. Yeah.
Probably
that was-
like Webster Hall right now is the only spot for that right
you know.
now.
And those spots, you know, again, like those are mixed spots. You know what I'm saying? Those weren't like you
Just
you didn't
go there
always
for
go
him.
there
Not
just for a
different
show.
stuff all
Like
the time,
there'd be
yeah.
DJ nights there all the time as well,
Right.
and stuff like that. So, you know, Tramps was primarily like, you know, that's where you were going to get the concert, you know.
That's so crazy. You know, like you brought up Limelight, and I've talked to Riz about Limelight, and you spinning there, and like you used to tell me these stories about lugging crates up like a ladder. and
Remember
shit.
that ladder?
Yeah, hell
You
yeah.
guys-
We were doing I mean, he was there
chapel.
way more than me, but we got was that probably Main Ingredient?
I think it was the main
was the
ingredient.
name
Was
of the
that during
party.
the Club Kids era, kind of, or
That was after.
after?
Yeah, a little bit after, like the early to mid 90s.
Early to mid '90s.
Yeah, I think they were a little bit earlier.
Abandoned church. It was like a church, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a gutted church,
Yep.
and then like there were different rooms.
Yeah,
But
there was
I-
like 3, 4, 5 rooms.
But whenever I think of Limelight, I think of this melting pot of all kinds of different New York
yeah.
characters.
Sure, absolutely.
So like you'll see hip hop heads,
Yeah.
but you'll see like the LGBTQ,
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
right? You'll
That and
you
the
know,
Palladium.
and the,
Yeah, Palladium too.
Palladium. I always hear about, and I wish I was in that
was
era.
that was
that was
incredible.
great. Yeah.
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 He was around for the Palladium.
Yeah, I played in the Michael Todd room, which was the hip hop room.
That was
'cause they
hip-hop.
had
Oh wow.
my man Charlie Casanova. Shout out to him. He was the main floor DJ, and he was like, I mean, that was like the mecca too, man.
Mm-hmm.
You need to
That's
go-
what they did, like the MTV
Right,
shows,
right.
the tapings,
Mm-hmm.
or
Wait,
downtown
wait,
Julie
what
Brown.
was the years
and
of the
shit.
Palladium? What was the?
That's
years?
like 92,
Yeah, that was really
Yeah.
90, 91,
Yeah,
92 to
90,
like about
90.
95, 96.
Forgot when it closed.
That was
but
about like 97 when it closed.
maybe so.
yeah.
But
they,
it really didn't you know, like
they
it kinda
started doing
faded.
more hip hop.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, towards
There you
the
go.
end.
I think I remember I was in high school, and I could be wrong, but I saw like a fucking printed out flyer of Tribe Called Quest when Low End Theory came out, and I think they had a show at the
was-
Palladium.
I was there at that show.
There was a
I
bar.
got
yeah.
kicked out.
Did you?
Why?
What
Oh, it's a
happened?
long story. I almost had a fight with Rampage.
Oh, wow.
From
Really?
Leaders on the-
Yeah.
Shout out
I
to
was
Ramp.
Wild for the night?
yeah. What happened was no, it wasn't for Low End Theory. They had a Violator Presents.
Yes, that was.
So
a
they
Violator
had Beat
project.
Nuts, Tribe Called Quest, Leaders. It was everybody was there. And my boy, I came with him. He was at the Source. So he was like, yo, I got to go to the bathroom. They come off stage, ask him about the album, ask him a couple of questions, this, that, and the third. And, you know, I figured they kind of knew me because I DJ'd, whatever.
Yeah.
And I had the recorder, and then somebody said, yo, he's taping the show. And then they came down the steps like they was going to kill me, like, because they thought I was bootlegging the show, whatever. And I was like,
Right.
I didn't get a chance to even tell him. So Cap, love Big Cap. Big Cap steps in front of them. no, that's Copen. Yo, he good. Then it was like maybe 15 of their entourage, and he was like, y'all don't think I can hold all these niggas.
That's because they knew you worked at Beach Street.
No, they didn't. That's fucked up. That's fucked up. Man.
I'm joking.
All I did for you at Beach Street.
Where did you guys link up? Just being in the scene and just seeing each other?
I feel like besides the scene, it was definitely Beach Street.
Definitely Beach Street. And I was fans of these guys, man. These are the guys, the cornerstones of like New York hip hop.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, these are my guys, man. I love these guys.
Likewise, man. Always.
Absolutely.
Always.
The good guys.
That's why
these are the good guys.
That's why we get along. That's why we can. I probably haven't seen him in over a decade. You know what I'm saying?
It's like golfing. I'm like, hell
pick him right up. You know what I'm saying? It's like
crazy. Right up. Yeah.
That's why it's like there's. That's why it goes back to what I was saying about the Serato stuff. It's like, you know, it's as a blanket statement. That's how I feel. How I said.
Yeah.
But there's individuals within the blanket statement that deserve and earn it, and you know, those are the ones that you gravitate towards. And what we all do, we gravitate towards each other that have like-minded goals.
It's a certain it's a certain level of integrity that goes along with it too. You know what I mean? So
that's a good word, integrity. That's what it is. It's kind of like no matter how big someone is or famous or rich they are, you know, they lack the integrity, so no one co-signs them. No one's really cool with them. Like, we all got to live and earn a living, so we're like, all right, we got to deal with that motherfucker, but we don't necessarily respect him, and he's not in our circle. So there's still things like that, like to now, but like you said, there's an integrity that you build, and then like I think it's just harder to place it nowadays. Whereas in your days, if I see you and you're in the vicinity, I already know you kind of earned your way to be in the circle and to earn your way into this room.
Right.
Whereas like I think like in the 2000s, like Ani Quinn and like, you know, Eric LaPoe, Mark Ronson, all of these guys, and like even, you know, Riz yourself and everyone, like when you started seeing, oh yeah, Crooked's doing these rooms or Crooked's doing these rooms, it's kind of like he must have done something to earn his way to get into those rooms.
Right.
Whereas now you don't know what the hell.
Right. Now you don't know. It's like it's harder to differentiate. But probably it was even more clear during your time.
Sure.
Like if someone made it there, you were like, oh,
because you knew the story and it was your business.
That's exactly what it is.
You
You knew the story. You heard.
100%.
Everything about hip hop was word of mouth.
Right.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like that's you already knew what you were getting into.
And it was your business to do the homework to find out.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Shit, I want to hear about more Palladium, Limelight, all of this shit. I want to hear these stories. Like this is the shit I want to hear. Like I'm a fan. Like I wasn't around. Like even we're in Kiambo Hip Hop's studio. Me and him talk about this all the time. Like he loves like listening to the podcast to hear the DJs because he was making all these Rockefeller hits and these records.
Right. Yeah.
But he was too young to even go out. So he couldn't even go to Speed or Cheetah and see what was happening with the records because he was just like, he was in the studio just like, you know, with the producers making all the hits.
Yeah. Sure.
But now I want to hear about Palladium. I want to hear all about this shit, like what was going on, and like I want to hear these things.
It's different for me because I've played both sides of the music stuff. So, you know, the underground stuff, there would be times when I would play stuff like that, but it would be like a one-off party or something. Everything else was regular commercial stuff on the weekend. So if I used to do Palladium, I used to do Limelight sometimes on Friday and Palladium on Saturday every week for like a few years straight.
How many crates were you bringing?
Oh man, I mean it wasn't Capri crates, you know.
12.
Yeah, he had a lot, but you know. Definitely shout to Capri, shout to Derek, his brother, shout to Jimmy. A lot of work with those crates.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I would try and limit it to 4 in a bag.
Really?
Yeah,
But you had to be choice.
right.
You had to pick those joints. You know what I mean?
And I didn't just leave them there the next week. That was the problem with, you know, being ACD and trying to switch up. It's just like I went through everyone again. This stays.
Every week. Yeah.
But then it's like, all right, I'm gonna quick mix. You know, a hook of some song. Do I have to bring this record tonight? You know, like, is it going to make a difference? So I would have to determine whether I'm going to take that space or put something else in there.
I forgot about like putting like an extra hour and a half or 2 hours before you leave.
Right.
To just be like, all right, what am I going to play tonight? Then
Exactly.
you go through the records, then you go through the new records.
Yeah. And you bring more than you need every time.
Right.
Yeah.
Always.
Always.
And, you know, the bag would be probably like a reggae set. You know, just have a nice little bag for the reggae set. And then sometimes there'll be another bag when it started to get more diverse musically in the clubs, where you do your little rock set, you know, and you have to make room. So that's where those records that they pressed up that had 4 or 5 cuts on it came into.
I contributed too.
It came into play. You know, they were pressed louder than the album. Album cuts were very low, mixed like shit. So you'd have to bring like the Prince one. The Prince
exactly
4 bombs on one record. So you know you're saving space for another couple of records.
You want to thank me?
So
now?
wait.
I do want to thank you. What we're talking about are these vinyl bootlegs. And they were the compilation records where they would be like the best of Prince, best of Al Green,
Michael Jackson.
They were dope.
But I remember there was Pop Life, there was Kiss. But like when you had like the albums of like Prince, they would like, you know, they were single albums. And the more songs you put on a vinyl, the lower the song is.
Right.
And it would just, you know, it would just get ruined and it would
kill
fuck
the whole
up
vibe.
Kill the vibe. And these bootlegs were so vital. Because they were loud, they were like they were only 2 songs on each side, and I remember I bought like 4 copies of them.
Yeah,
you just constantly keep buying them and buying them
just in case.
Yeah, just in case.
Thank you,
thank you, Goldie. And it even like if you brought 4 of those singles out, you're saving space on 3 other singles.
That's what it was. It was saving space.
Saving space.
There you go.
Yeah,
you know.
And then I was also learning some of them were like the '80s hits.
Right.
So I was learning. I was like, well, I never played this song.
Right.
Like, what's this song? And I'm like, oh shit, I know this song.
Right.
It was almost like a greatest hits, but it's actually loud, loud enough for it to go over in the crowd.
And you got to figure if it made that compilation, it has to be a dope record, even if you didn't know it. You know.
So that was the mastermind of Gold.
That was my contribution.
God bless. Yeah.
So you guys were all in cahoots when, like, you know, you were dropping these vinyl pressings. You were dropping, like, you would have the Crooklyn Clan joints. You know, like, you guys were always just talking and trading and being like, you were hearing the shit and, like, how was that?
I think the retail thing with me and E was kind of where we're most alike because we were servicing the regular person.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So our connection was a lot different because we saw what would it take for them to get across the board to actually pay for it.
Right.
So we try to make
But there wasn't a competition or anything, right? With Fat Beats and Beat Street.
Because we would say, we don't have it, go to Fat Beats.
Absolutely.
Go there. You know, they definitely have it. You know what I mean? It's like, that was always the case.
And they were curating, you know what I mean? It was like, you walk into the store, they're playing all these joints, and it's like, all you had to do was ask, yo, what's hot, blah, blah, blah.
And then we have like a top 10 on the wall where it just have like whatever was hot, or you needed to have these, yo, don't bother me right now, but the top 10 is right there.
Right.
That's what you need.
And then you'd ask Goldie what he had underneath the stash, you know, like the secret stash. And there'd be some treats there.
Yeah. Thank you, Riz. Thank you.
And then you also juggling mixtapes and everything and
Everything.
selling mixtapes, mix CDs,
Washing machines.
Everything.
I remember everyone saying, like, every time I wanted more dancehall or reggae, they're like, just go to Beat Street.
Yeah.
But I just never made it out there.
That's
I was like,
too.
I'm not going to Brooklyn.
All of the, he made mixtapes.
Yeah.
Riz, you know, of course. You know what I mean?
But you would go to, you know, you would have a better chance going to B Street and finding more and better reggae than what we would have at Fat Beats.
For sure.
Probably took us years before we even had a reggae section at Fat Beats. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you would go to
our shit was Walmart.
Well, but that was more expected from going to Beat Street. Like, you would get more of that. Like, if someone was looking for the new Juggernauts record, they would come to Fat Beats before they would go to Beat Street.
Right.
Maybe if they're looking for the new reggae record, they'd go to Beat Street before they come.
Sometimes they would look for the record, but they would buy it just because they wanted to support Fat Beats. They would go and get that. You know, like, yeah, I'll pick up this album over here, but I'll do that when I go over to Fat Beats. You know, I'll pick that up. I'll pick up, you know, Shabam Sadiq over there.
The reggae room in Beach Street, it wasn't a reggae room until they made a reggae room in the back, right?
Nah, they had a little section.
They always had a little section?
They had always had a little section.
But then it became like
But when the 45s came, that's when they specialized it, and it was like...
Right, okay, yeah.
You know,
I'm trying to remember. Because Culture was there, right?
Culture was, of course he was there, but what they had was... They sectioned it off because they pushed it back, the store back a little even further, so they made more space, and they had a reggae room. Then they had the next room where they would play everything that was hot.
Right.
And then I was in the front for a while
Yes.
playing the CDs to get people to buy the CDs.
Right.
So if the record wasn't really out on the record, I'd be like, yo, it's on the CD.
Right.
Get this, get that, you know.
Yeah.
So it was like a method, like how
Yeah.
we kind of like triple team them a little bit.
That was good, man.
What was the turning point for y'all for Fat Beats and B Street when y'all just started?
Because
Like,
we closed
seeing-
about at the same time. I think y'all outlasted us by maybe a year or two.
I think so. Yeah, we we tried as long as we could. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, we saw
9/11 hurt it.
9/11 is the turning point. 9/11.
I tell you, bring it up all the time, man. 9/11
Absolutely.
devastating.
And I didn't realize. I thought it was just me, my own story. But then like we had Dave and Doug from D&D, and I asked them the same question. They were like 9/11. You know, it's like, and you're saying 9/11. It's like it just coincided with everything. Like everything just went downhill after that.
It changed everything because music wasn't a priority anymore. It was more like, oh shit, my life. Like, what the fuck is going on with life?
Yeah.
And it became less important. Even though you had people were selling records and this, that, and the third, it wasn't the experience of people going out and
Right.
congregating became less and less. It was just a little bit more. People were wary. And 9/11 had a big impact on the scene because there was no more places where, even though it took a little while, the congregating of
Right.
the collective interest in the clubs and stuff like that, very skewed. Very skewed after that.
In addition to that, that's just like the turning point. Like we can all mark that as like that's where it started declining.
Yeah.
And then
Right.
the main thing really was Serato. You know what I'm saying? It's like, for us, it's like all the DJs that were coming in and buying all of the party records didn't have to come buy them anymore because now they're just getting an MP3 and just rocking Serato.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can remember hands down ordering something, and I know you did the same. Like, I can remember ordering Mobb Deep, Hell on Earth 12-inch, ordering 150 copies from Unique. You know what I'm saying? Like, first day it comes out, 150 copies to sell of the 12-inch, and then probably have to reorder it, within the next week. By the time Fat Beats closed, we probably had 2 to 3 copies of a single on a wall. That just shows you the difference of like how many people were buying earlier on and how many people were buying at the end.
Wow.
So technology really killed it,
Yeah.
And the other thing too was, which a lot of people don't understand, was a lot of the indie stuff that we were selling, we weren't necessarily selling it all to DJs. It was the only way you could get it. It was the only medium it was being made on. So there were people that only had CD players or only had a cassette player, but they would buy the 12-inch and then figure out later how they were going to get it recorded onto a tape or onto a CD to play it.
So the MP3s came
MP3 killed
into
everything.
LimeWire, all that shit, and it took away the niche of the vinyl.
Right.
Another thing too was a lot of the companies took the hit because of 9/11, where people wasn't really buying a lot of stuff. They started. Let's just do pop music. Let's do Britney Spears. Let's
Right.
do NSYNC. So that became more in vogue, and the hip hop shit was like, do we actually got a press vinyl, or
Right.
can we just do CD?
Yep.
And now, if you do CDs, it's like, I don't have that record. That's where the bootlegs really came into fruition after that, because I need it on vinyl.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that doesn't do anything for a record store that actually sells the actual record.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Because now it's like, I'm getting the official shit. I'm paying full price.
Is it crazy to see that there's been a revival of vinyl now? Like I'm starting to sell, like I want to sell my collection.
Right.
Because my niece is in college now, and she's gonna be visiting New York, and my collection's at my mom's crib, and I'm like, yo, we want to make a space for her desk so she could study,
Right.
and I'm like, yo, and I'm meeting with like different people that want to buy the vinyl, and they're taking out these promo records that like Sierra's first album, it's still sealed. And it's like, yo, this is $150.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really?
They put me up on that.
Yeah.
Because I have all my stuff still. I haven't gotten rid of anything.
Are you
the only
into
thing
disc
I've gotten
stocks?
rid of is stuff I had triples and quadruples of. I still have all my stuff. So these guys were like, yo, you got that Aaliyah record? That's going for like $350. I'm like, get out of here for the Aaliyah album? I'm like, and I never played it. It's still
And the thing is, it's not on social. It's not on the.
it wasn't at the time. I think now it is, but back then it wasn't.
No, they took it down.
They did again?
Yeah.
Oh.
They did? Oh, wow.
So I was like, I got 2 copies. So I was like, let me hit up,
I got some underground records. I'll trade you for those.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, I slowly, like, I dipped my foot in the water a little bit by doing a few R&B records. 'Cause I have no I don't really have a connection to my R&B
Right,
records.
right,
You know what I'm
right.
saying? So it's like I sold some Mariah Carey, some of the Aaliyahs, some Maxwell, some other stuff.
So you have like a Discogs. Are you moving them
Yes,
through
I have a
Discogs?
Discogs page.
So how about vinyl parties? Are you doing like any of those? Or
I'm not doing. I haven't been doing a lot of stuff. Period.
Does that interest you?
I mean, not specifically a strictly vinyl party, but I mean, I'll give you. I did something with Large Pro.
Okay.
A couple of weeks ago, and I brought both. I brought a bag of vinyl. I brought 2 bags of vinyl, and I brought my computer.
What's a vinyl party? What is that?
They have,
That sounds.
now it's like
that sounds a little nasty.
Coming back though.
it's like a resurgence.
Oh,
with
vinyl
people
party.
just bringing vinyl.
Oh, okay. So everyone does a vinyl set.
Yes.
Right.
Vinyl.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
DJing on vinyl. Yeah.
Okay.
Like, they actually have new clubs that are just strictly.
All right.
The thing
yeah,
is, I
okay.
never stopped.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's like I never just stopped doing vinyl. Even when we were doing like APT and all that stuff.
Right.
I was still just playing vinyl all the
right.
time. Everyone else was doing Serato, and I was just doing, and I would bring it to have as a backup for like exclusive stuff.
Right,
whatever,
right, right.
but I was just playing vinyl. I always just, again, it goes back to me like playing what I have, what's mine, what I know, and what I want to put together.
Yeah.
But the new stuff, it's sort of a little misconception as well, because vinyl is back in terms of popularity, but it's not back in terms of consumption. You know what I'm saying? And what I mean by that is when we were in our heyday at Fat Beats, you mentioned Mos Def,
Universal Magnetic.
thank you,
Yeah.
Universal Magnetic. Records like that, records like DITC, Day One.
Oh, yeah.
Records like like Freddie Fox. A lot of those records that were banging, we were selling 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 worldwide. That isn't happening nowadays. You have everyone pressing records and selling records, but the quantities are like maxed out at like 500. A lot of these pressings are
Really?
300.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Limited edition.
So like,
Then it just
like
selling it for more.
Like
They're
and
Frank,
that's
selling
why,
them for more.
and that's why they're hyping it and saying
Correct.
that these, because the money is adding.
it's like 1 out of 500, and it's going for.
Yeah.
So
I mean-
like the Bad Bunnies, the Taylor Swift vinyls,
Some
those are
and,
just limited.
and the color vinyls, even the crazy.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing too. Everyone's doing. We're doing one record and doing 5 versions of it. So you're trying to get the 100 people that's going to buy it. You're trying to get them to buy all the variants of it.
Becoming like sneakers, like retail.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
totally is.
Very
Yeah.
much so.
And so, you got to look at the business of it. Like all the plants that we were using shut down. You know what I'm saying? It's like, we're limited now to like, a couple of that are left that are
Right.
doing everyone. In the wake of that, there are new ones that are popping up, but they're small boutique, plants and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Back then, these plants were doing bigger jobs. If they were selling 30,000 of one record, it's much easier for them and time and much more is better time spent because they're only doing the initial setup and then they're pressing 30,000 records. Now, if they're pressing 30,000 records, they're
It's
pressing
100
that
records,
of like
100
100 different records.
100 different records, right.
So it's like they're having to do 100 times the work
Right.
to press the same amount of records because it's a setup for 100 different records.
Yeah.
So all the pressings are way down in terms of the quantities that are being sold on a mass basis. People that might not know the numbers, but we were there. We know what we were selling. So
Yeah.
now, like I said, at Fat Beats, I would say 2,000 to 3,000 is probably the cap on like something of big value that we would press. Like a Dilla, an MF Doom,
Right.
something like that. Like those still sell. Those are like always timeless.
Yeah.
But like everything else, 200, 300 copies is kind of the average. 500 if we're feeling like happy about it. But it's hard to move that many units or something.
Yeah. So is anyone selling their collection or you're selling it slowly?
Going.
Little by
Slowly, yeah.
little? But I feel like you're getting into it. Like you're.
No.
Are you the type that
got it.
takes a picture of every record and posts it and?
I don't even want to know, man.
No.
It's like
No.
a
His job.
It's a full-time day job.
That's what you
and
do
night job.
full-time? Yeah.
A lot.
Wow.
You love it.
Have you
though.
found any records with your teeth marks in it?
Nice
like,
call.
kill
I think I
this shit
chuck
from the
those away.
Palladium days.
Nice call back. Nice call back.
Wait, you're moving that many units, or you just love it so much?
No, I just came to the realization that the next time I move again, I can't move 40,000 records.
And that's the thing. I haven't moved in
So
27
right.
years.
I
So I
moved
haven't
like
had to
3
deal
or
with
4 times, and it's like it's not fun.
Wow.
And then the horror of maybe fucking something up.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right. But I also like recording these and catching the memories of back when we used to do the 90s radio shows and these underground records that I haven't heard in ages. And I'm like, oh, shit.
So you're transferring them at the same time.
Transferring, like recording, lossless.
So you have a process. You're transferring them. You're listening to them. Checking for scratches or anything, and
sometimes
then,
I'm listening to them,
yeah.
but I'm listing them first. I got to get them up on there. Then it's like we got to check the collection. Do we have this? If we don't, we got to record it.
Right.
Then we got to listen to the pops. Take the pops out. This and
Who's
that.
we? Who's what?
My boy Sean C. Vinyl Reanimators. Yeah.
Wow.
He's from Vinyl Reanimators fame. Remember they used to do all the bootlegs and dope stuff, man. Yeah, the remixes. So he sold most of his collection already, and he's like kind of egging me on. You don't need them no more. What are you gonna do? You're gonna be 90. You're gonna be DJing on vinyl. But like just in general, like I don't want to move them again.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like I want the digital collection now, but I want really good quality digital files.
Right.
So, you know, it's a lot of work, man. It really
You're
is.
like mastering them, and you're like,
oh, bro, you don't even understand. Like, I was doing it, and then I saw what these guys were doing, and I was like, I had to go out and buy a fucking special needle.
You got to buy
a separate turntable for it, and all kinds of shit. Man.
yeah, like,
He's like some of your library.
can I get a folder?
Can I get your library?
Can you make me a crate and just send it to me?
Nah, you gotta earn that.
I gotta do chores around the house or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Crooked did
Goldie,
this
you
shit.
still have your library?
Nah, I got rid of a lot of shit.
Really?
I just got like beats and shit now.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what I'm gonna keep. Just like certain ones that
Certain
mean stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So people should check out your Discogs then, right?
If you want. you know.
What's it called? Is it DJ Riz?
NYC.
Live from BK.
Oh wow.
Live from BK.
Yeah.
Like the
I mean,
mixtape.
you know, I'm a mom and pop store.
Yeah.
Might find a washing machine in there.
Hey yo, I know you guys have to go.
Yeah.
You guys have to do the radio show. You got to do your kids. Yo, Eclipse, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Riz, I do want to apologize though. What
are you gonna apologize?
I want to apologize because like a few years ago we had Scissorhands on, and then there was this like beef that started with Scissorhands and Fat Man's School.
I don't want none of that.
Yeah.
None of that beef.
I know.
What up, Scoop? What up, Sis?
If you felt away, we're sorry.
It's
No,
all
but I
good,
remember
man.
it happening, and I was just like, "Oh my god!" Like
His
fuck.
biggest stress was
Like,
you. He's
yeah.
like, "What is Riz gonna think?"
I remember. I just I was trying to text him multiple times, and I kept erasing it, and I just was like, "Yo, I'm gonna screenshot it. It's probably still up there." I was just like, yo, man, I'm sorry about all of this shit that's going on because I didn't want this podcast to be like about cloudy like drama shit and like
sure.
oh yo like let's start this drama and
none
you
of
know
that
but you know
crap.
how Scissorhands is he's gonna do whatever he's gonna do and then Fat Man Scoop is I don't know
Man, it
all
is
of this
what it
shit.
is. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, a blessing in disguise. And then it's just like that record is like the most sour tasted, beautiful thing in my life.
The
you know
Be
what
Faithful
I mean?
record,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's just, it is what it is, man. And if it goes the way it goes and you know, people might not know us for making the record. You know, the average person doesn't know that.
Right.
The DJs might know that.
That's
good
what I'm saying.
enough-
That's why
good
we're at
enough
the
for
bottom
me,
of the
man.
list. That's
Good
why
enough.
that's why we're down here.
What's the best thing about DJing for both of you? What's the best thing out of this whole journey? What's the best
For me,
best thing?
I became a DJ because I wanted to put people up on music.
Okay.
All my friends, I was like, yo, like I was the most diehard out of everyone. Like I was, taping the radio shows, every weekend and stuff like that. And I just wanted to turn people on to new music, and that was my journey.
I mean, passion is still there.
Yeah.
I love it. Like you still get, when
Absolutely,
you're talking,
Yeah.
you still get-
It's something you hold dear. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It's like we've, for what I've contributed to, I hold that dear. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and I it means something to me. So even with Fat Beats, it's like I've been. I haven't been in house with Fat Beats the whole entire time. And I left to go tour and do other stuff. It's always been an open door policy, and I have been back with them now for the last 3 or 4 years. But I've always maintained my relationship with them and maintained my not passion, but my
Connection.
not even connection. My I can't think of the word. Like my love for Fat Beats. You know what I'm saying? It's like all the artists I manage, all of our music goes through Fat Beats. You know what I'm saying? I make sure it goes through Fat. It's like it's something I built along with Joe.
But it's so much a part of you.
That's what I'm saying. It's like that's why I can't get rid of my records.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But it's so with all that, it's like anything I do, it's like I'm very passionate about. I'm upholding. At least I think I'm upholding what I believe to be the values of how I was raised on this music and this culture. You know what I'm saying?
Your sons are going to be chilling, though.
They don't care. They don't
Like, Dad, what are these records? Let me sell them.
I've been trying to get them into comic books. They don't care. They just want to play video games. That's it.
So what's the best thing, Riz? What's the best thing for you?
I just think for me it was the creativity. Like I was so enamored by like the Latin Rascals and those type of dudes, the Todd Terrys, the Mantronics, Marley Marl, Red Alert, just like in general, that whole era for me just meant so much and they made me want to do it.
Riz, Eclipse, thank you guys so much for coming through.
Thanks for having us.
And then I'll be honest with you, there's a circle of us that really look up to you guys, and moving like and I try to continue what you guys carry, which is that integrity and that authenticity.
Absolutely.
And how we move, and we try to keep it, in the game. But I just want to let y'all know that, a lot of the things that y'all said, we were watching and we were absorbing, and it is getting carried to the next generations, whether you see it or not.
Right.
It is slowly getting carried to the next generations. But having a podcast like this was specifically built for me to highlight heroes like you guys. That not everyone maybe knew, that wasn't like the loudest, voices in the room, that everyone just like, everyone seems to talk about the same people when they're referencing the greats and the legends and the people who carried hip hop on their backs and was contributing to the culture.
Right.
But I wanted to just highlight you guys and let all the young generations know,
We appreciate
Thank you.
that.
what
Always
y'all did,
appreciate it. Always.
That's
because
how we speak.
it
Thank
shaped for me, just like you both of you guys have put a lifetime into this. That's why it means so much to y'all, and you guys treasure it so much.
Yeah.
But like you guys are part of like that to me. Like
Thank you.
everything with the culture,
Appreciate it.
But thank you guys so much, and Goldie, thank you so much.
Nah, thanks for having me sit in.
If you want to watch more episodes from R.O.A.D Podcast, click either links on the left or the right. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page and get updated on new uploads throughout the week. Peace.